Welcome back to another FPL reaction stream for Game Week 36, but we still have a few games left in Double Gameweek 35. The wildcard hasn't been great so far, and once again, it comes down to those 50-50 calls. I had Gavardio, I talked about him being one of the best Man City defenders, but I still have some doubts about him starting some games later in the season. But he scored today, got a 15-pointer, whilst Ederson got injured, and we don't know the full extent of that injury just yet. I'll keep you up to date in future videos and podcasts, but that isn't looking like a great decision so far. Apart from that, not too many regrets on the wildcard or even with the team selection. Foden missed out completely, I believe due to illness, so Erling Haaland comes on after his goal to kill off the game against Nottingham Forest, and some big points across the board with Anthony Gordon and Isak, who I bought in on the wildcard. I had Anthony Gordon beforehand, but to set up for Double Gameweek 34, I sold him to Eze, so that kind of switcheroo has worked out quite nicely. But my defensive line has been absolutely shocking so far, and even Arsenal defenders kind of crumbled towards the end after that Raya howler. If it wasn't for that, I'm quite confident they would have kept a clean sheet, but it is what it is. Cole Palmer blanked as the captain, whilst Heung-min Son, anonymous all game, had that penalty and he buried it away. So yeah, so far it looks like, I keep saying it, this season, if you go a bit different with the captaincy, you seem to be rewarded, and sometimes it just comes down to these fine margins. But there's still that second game left between Chelsea and Tottenham. Let's see how that pans out, and I've got plenty of players left in that, but it's not looking too good so far. Let's get straight into your questions and comments as always, and it's good to see so many of you here already. So the first one is by Sudindra. He says, "Hey Dylan, will you sell Ederson and Udogie to Onana/Dubravka plus Gavardio?" Of course, we don't know the full extent of the Ederson injury. Udogie's out for the rest of the season, as we all know. Onana is still a decent choice because of the number of saves he makes, and in fact, he was on course for 10 points with maximum bonus during that game against Burnley, but after that late penalty, it kind of diminished his returns. Maguire, Dalot, and even Bruno Fernandes went from 3 bonus points to 2. But I wouldn't recommend Dubravka, to be quite honest with you, and that's because Nick Pope could be back by Double Gameweek 37, and if you're bench boosting that week, that could be a big blow to your plan. So I would sell Ederson and Udogie to Onana and Gavardio, provided it's for free. I wouldn't take a -4 hit just yet. There is still a chance Ederson is back for the Wolves game, but if he isn't, I'd be very happy to make both transfers right away. Or Ederson and Tony to Onana, Dubravka plus Haaland, and play Cucurella as the third defender. My other keeper is Neto, who's likely dropped. With Cucurella, he might be he might be good for Double Gameweek 37, but I really wouldn't go in that direction. If he's your third defender, yeah, I would just stick with the first option you provided there and go for Ederson and, for Onana and Gavardio. I definitely wouldn't do that one. Son captain paying off so far, yes. And of course, penalty takers always have this advantage. It's the same goes for Cole Palmer, who has 9 penalty goals this season. So yeah, the Son captaincy is looking the best thing right now, but there's still that second game left, and I am backing Chelsea a little bit more. If there was to be a winner, I think Chelsea would be the one. Yeah, I agree. Mers, there might be some kind of exceptions to that, but in a lot of cases, the wildcard isn't really paying off just yet, but Game Week 37 is the big one. I think if you get that massive score from your 15 players that week, that could really be the game changer. I don't know why I benched the man Josko Gavardio, affected or F my mini league supremacy. Yeah, I actually would have started Gavardio, believe it or not. I talked about this all week, but the only reason why is because I would have started him over Maguire or Dalot as my third defender there. Now, with Ederson in goal, I was always going to start Petrovic with a double game week, so thankfully I did go for that in the end. But yeah, with Gavardio, I'm a bit gutted I didn't go for that. Another 50-50 call, which seems to have gone the other way, but it is what it is. Arsenal almost effed it up against Spurs. Yep, Arsenal easily could have scored more than 4. Yeah, no, I think both teams, missed a lot of big chances. The thing is, it's a very chaotic game. It ebbed and flowed, and it was like a roller coaster. At the beginning, I think Spurs played quite well. They pressed Arsenal very high up, and I think Arsenal were quite lucky to then go 1-0 up. And straight after that, Spurs responded very well. They made it 1-1, but after that goal was disallowed for Mickey van der Ven, and Romero hit the crossbar and missed another chance as well. After that, it was all Arsenal up until that Raya mistake. So it was a very difficult game. I think even a draw would have been a fair result based on the balance of play, but yeah, Arsenal would have had no one else to blame but themselves if they had fumbled and bottled that 3-0 lead, because you just can't do that. The mistake by Raya is unforgivable. He responded very well after that, but you can't do that at that stage against your biggest rivals, especially when a tie was on the line. As an Arsenal fan, how did you feel when it was 3-2? Look, I have to say, at the beginning of the game, I was a bit, worried, nervous because of what's at stake. But then after, when it went 1-0, I was actually very confident, very calm. But once Raya made that mistake, I was losing my crap because I knew that was a game changer and the momentum swung completely. And then when it was 3-2, I kind of just feared the worst and thought it's going to be 3-3. But thankfully, that wasn't the case. Especially Tottenham. Banging tunes as always. Thank you very much, Dave. Yes, it's actually by my cousin. Yeah, he just makes some great tunes and very happy to use them. Otherwise, every single music I try to use on this channel is going to be copyrighted. Gavardio saved my game week up to 1.2k overall. Fair play. And sometimes you just need that bit of luck or that kind of differential pick. In this case, Gavardio. Edison just never seems to deliver as an FPL option, does he? So I probably just made a big mistake going for him in the first place. Elliot says, I've gone from 7 green arrows in a row and into the top 400k to 3 red arrows in a row and out of the top 1 million. Please end the season before it gets worse. There's still a chance to make that up though. If you lose that in 3 weeks, you can easily gain that and more. But I get your sentiment. I also kind of feel that way from an FPL perspective. I want this season kind of over, even the title race in a way. I just want that done and dusted, hopefully on the right side of history. But yeah, it is what it is. We've got to move on. Thoughts on Liverpool's next Liverpool. 5 years old, but I won't lie to you, I don't know much about him. I've only seen Feyenoord once or twice, I believe, so I can't really comment on him properly. It would be the same with Ange Postecoglou going into last summer, so yeah, I'll probably reserve judgment right now. I just have a quiet feeling he could be a good manager for Liverpool. It might take some time, maybe 1 or 2 years at the very least of, I wouldn't say complete struggles, but I don't see them in a title race for the foreseeable future. But I think they could get back to that stage fairly soon. So I think it could be a very good appointment. That's my gut feeling, but I don't know much about him. Good evening as well, Rodrev. Bench Bowen and Gavardio this week. That's very cruel, especially the Bowen one, I have to say. And obviously, I don't know who you started over Gavardio, but it probably made sense, especially if they were double Gameweek defenders. Need a share replacement by the looks of things. Any ideas? Currently, I have Borro, Dallo, Branthwaite, and White. Well, fair play with the Branthwaite pick. I thought Brentford would score. I was wrong about that. And Everton have now secured their survival. Looking at the defenders you have, I think even Gavardio or a Man City defender like Walker could be good for you. But rotation is still an issue, I think, going into the last few game weeks of the season. And that's the main reason why I didn't buy Gavardio in the first place. Otherwise, he'd be in my team from the get-go and in my starting 11. But I think that's what kind of springs to mind. I'd say Gavardio or Walker. Sean says 48 points so far with a -4. With 4 left to play, Palmer captain, small red to 4.7k. KDB saved me. Can't believe he's only 5% owned. Hope he goes massive for the end of the season to keep me in the top 5k. Yeah, from an FPL perspective, I can understand that. I hope he stays quiet, but for different reasons. Yeah, he is a mega differential, that's for sure, but once Haaland was back in training, I think that's what kind of prevented a lot of people like myself from going in that direction, but you were rewarded for being a bit bold and different with that pick, so I have to say it's a very good one, and I can see him really delivering in the crucial end of the season. Pick Gavardio over Edison, back my gut feeling, fair play, and you've got to do that. I still think there could be some problems in Game Week 37, for example. I don't see Gavardio starting every single game, but Edison probably won't at this point with the injury, so it's still a loss for those that went for Edison. Pep just said Edison injury doesn't look good. Yeah, I'm not too surprised, to be honest. I might just end up kind of swallowing my pride and going for Gavardio, but I wouldn't be surprised by the time I buy him. He's going to be benched in 37. The Shen Edison injury isn't bad. Well, we don't know that yet. It might not be bad per se, but there could be a risk of, aggravating the problem, so they just go with Ortega again. So, yeah, with Fabian Schär as well, those that went in that direction, very unlucky, but that's football and that's FPL. Van Heck benched. Is he a risk for bench boost 37? He's got a problem. I'm not sure exactly what the injury is. I think it might be a muscle issue, so he is a doubt. He could even be out for a few weeks, so it's not him being benched out of nowhere. He was just not in the squad due to injury. I'm on 65 points. Who to bench to start Haaland? I'd probably bench Højlund. That's kind of like my gut feeling, but I also look at Gordon because he's away from home and he's so inconsistent on the travels. I think it's between those two to bench. I'd definitely start Son, Foden, Palmer. And is Schär going to be okay for the next game? I honestly couldn't tell you. I was going to say, he typically is an injury-prone player, but this season he's played every single game for Newcastle. But yeah, those that went there, very unfortunate. I was at 80k and took a -16 hit to set up the bench boost. Currently 95k. Would you consider this a good move considering I still have 5 doublers this week? Well, considering you took that many hits and you're at a good rank still, I think that's, I'd take that as a positive. But we don't know until we get to Game Week 37 and see how it goes, because we could get surprise benchings, things can happen, but on the face of it, I'd say, yeah, it looks good. KDB, Foden, Palmer, captain, Game Week 36. My original feeling was to captain Foden, but the fact he wasn't in the squad today does maybe put me off a little bit. I'm going to stick with Foden for now, but if not, I'd go for KDB given his form. What'll come back from my team from 18 points to 60 on Sunday. By the way, Cucurella effed my game week. Yeah, very unfortunate with the own goal. But then again, those that went for Petrovic, not much better. And you can't really rely on Chelsea defensively. And this double in 35 was always going to be the more difficult one. And I'm just disappointed about Jackson. I mean, wow, what a surprise that we're disappointed in Jackson. But he actually scored, the goal was ruled out. And yeah, I actually thought we hit gold there. Would you do Saliba to Burn, Salah to KDB, Sarabia to Bruno for a -8? I would, but I would hold off the Saliba to Burn transfer if possible. I'd definitely keep Saliba for now at home to Bournemouth, who have been in good form. I think that'll be a tough game for the Gunners, but with Newcastle, I'm not really expecting a clean sheet against Burnley. What are you thinking for Man United double game week? Well, I never wanted two United defenders or even a Nana in goal and either Dalot or Maguire. I never wanted it, but just for the doubles, I went in that direction. I'm happy keeping Bruno Fernandes. He got 2 bonus points despite no goals or assists. He played well yet again. I think the best triple up in Man United is Bruno Fernandes and Nana, and then it's between either Dalot, Maguire, or Højlund for that third spot. But Bruno Fernandes and Onana are definitely the best picks. I kind of wish I went for Onana instead of Ederson and Gvardiol instead of either Dalot or Maguire in the end. So yeah, only positive for me right now is that I have 7 double game week 37 players for bench boost 37 and 2 free transfers to work with until then. Other than that, I'm in FPL pain. Yeah, it's a good foundation, and you could find yourself with 11, 12 players by that stage with a hit or two. But yeah, it's still salvageable. If you have the bench boost, yeah, you've got the bench boost. I think it could work out for you. Come on, Arsenal, says Ian Ali. It was a big win, but I know I don't want to sound ungrateful for anything because the main sensation I felt was relief at the full-time whistle, but I felt very disappointed with how Arsenal almost threw the game away. I'm happy they didn't, don't get me wrong, but you can't make mistakes like that, and they conceded far too many chances today compared to their usual solid defensive self this season and in this calendar year. Salah, keep or sell to Bruno, KDB. He's a very easy sell. I even said this before the West Ham game, and I thought he'd start that match. He could do well against Tottenham if he starts, but you saw that rift between him and Jurgen Klopp. I'm not sure exactly what that was about, but yeah, I'd go to Bruno Fernandes personally, but KDB is also a great differential. Switch Gvardiol to Walker in the last minute. I still think Walker's on course for bonus points, if I'm not mistaken. He was on 8. That might have changed, though. I'll double check that for you now. But yeah, that's not ideal. That's not ideal. So it ended with Gvardiol, maximum bonus points, Akanji, De Bruyne, and Walker all sharing 2, and Ake's getting a bonus point as well. So yeah, 8 points for Walker. It's not the best. You did lose out on 7 points, but you got 8 points from a defender. That's more than my entire backline this week. So it's something. It's something. Ederson injured. Yes, he picked up an injury. We don't know how serious it is, but I think someone in the chat mentioned that Guardiola said that it could be serious. Seema says, hey Dylan, how are you? Sell Brady to Gvardiol and Solanke to Watkins. Yeah, I would that. Okay, thank you very much for... So apparently the audio is kind of bugging out a little bit, so let me deal with that now. Before I go and solve it, be sure to smash the like button and subscribe for new. Don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. It's only been 20 minutes. I'll be streaming for at least an hour more. But also check all the other links in the description below for my Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, the Patreon, patreon.com/DylanRCM as well. And also the channel memberships by clicking the join button and much more. But let me go fix that issue right now. And yeah, I would appreciate if you keep me updated in terms of the audio. I'm not sure why it's bugging out, but it's probably an issue with the cable. So just give me a second and I will sort it out very, very soon. Okay, so I have returned, but I have to say there might still be an issue with the audio. So be sure to let me know in the live chat. It'd be greatly appreciated. And I think it might be a certain cable. The problem is if I take it out, it will end the stream because the internet is also connected. So that might lead to some issues. But yeah, be sure to let me know and I'll try to fix it very, very soon. So thank you, Durgish, and everyone else for letting me know. FPL is all skill, no luck. I slept around, missed deadline in Gameweek 29 when I wanted to use free hit, got 120 points in Gameweek 34. Yeah, obviously I get what you're saying there. No, I think there is some skill involved, but ultimately a lot does come down to luck. Did a minus 16 and I'm having a green arrow. Fair play, man. I'd also be quite happy with that. I think next season will be a two-horse race, Man City, Arsenal. I hope not, but look, we always get surprises, right? I don't think many people expected Liverpool to be in the title race this season. I thought they would, but I always kind of saw them as third favourites. I also thought they'd win Europa League and Carabao, and only one of that came true. Who knows? Who knows? Football is full of surprises. Arsenal might even fall off next season, or maybe Man City, hopefully, please, for the sake of the Premier League. But yeah, Man City always going to be there, it seems, with Guardiola, and then it's about that second challenger, so to speak. KDB versus Gvardiol without considering minutes. KDB's more explosive, and I still think City will concede in most games. So if I had to pick one with budget being no issue, I'd go for KDB, definitely. Picked Walker over Edison and had Vicario as second keeper instead. Just didn't fancy starting Dalot. That's fair enough. I also didn't fancy starting Maguire or Dalot. I thought I was a bit fortunate, you know, getting to the 88th minute, 1-0, Maguire with a bonus point, but it didn't turn out pretty well in the end. I agree. I mean, I saw a clip of that, I think, and I do think the Premier League is quite boring, and even if Arsenal go on to win it, that'd be quite refreshing for the league and all that. The same would have been if Liverpool won it, but I think if City just keep on winning the title every year, it is a bit boring. Even the relegation battle kind of sorted by this point. Top four seems almost done. So I can see what he's saying. I think this season has been good overall, but the outcomes and also the trends of this league is quite boring, in my opinion. How do you see Liverpool next season? Obviously, we don't know how things are going to go in the summer window and also how the new manager is going to bed in, but my prediction right now would be either third or fourth place for Liverpool. I don't see them as close to the title as they have been this year. So I think they will drop off a little bit and they might have some struggles, maybe some early exits in the Cups. But I think after 2 or 3 years, I can see them getting back to this position once again and challenging. But I'd say for next season, I'd say third or fourth. And you could even say, I think a lot of people will even predict that they're going to be out of the top four and maybe finish in Europa League places. But yeah, I'm probably going to go for, I'm going to say fourth. I'll be happy if anyone but City and win the league this season. Well, unfortunately, there's only one option in Arsenal. With Liverpool, they need both Arsenal and City to drop points in 2-3 games. It's not going to happen. So it's either City or Arsenal, and City are the massive favourites. Play Branthwaite versus Luton or Maguire versus Palace. Not a big fan of either. You'd probably have to go for the Everton defender based on their recent form. So I'm going to go for Branthwaite, but not that confident. And then you see the fact that they've secured safety. That could also just diminish the motivation. And it wouldn't surprise me if they didn't keep a clean sheet until the end of the season now. But yeah, Branthwaite, he's been a great option recently. I have to say that. Would you start Mateta ahead of Bruno? That's a great question, but I'm still going to go for Bruno Fernandes, I think. Arsenal don't really deserve the full 3 points in my opinion. Arsenal always shaking in crucial moments. I can say this why everyone thinks Arsenal can never be the favourite in winning trophies. But it's not just that though, it's the fact that City exist and they're composed and they've won the league so many times recently. I do agree that Arsenal were shaky today, but I think after they scored that first goal, I think they were quite comfortable and composed. It was just that Raya mistake. That's what changed everything, and you can't afford to make that level of mistake because it changes the momentum and the psychology for both teams. So if it wasn't for that, we could be talking about a very different story, possibly 4-5-0, who even knows. Best Darwin replacement, already have Haaland and Isak, can't get Jackson as I'm already tripled up on Chelsea. Højlund or Pedro, or would you take a punt on Wilson? Yeah, it might be a blessing in disguise that you can't get Jackson. I think Højlund would still appeal a little bit for the double in 37. Ollie Watkins, if you can go to him, would be the ideal pick. So I'd say Watkins if you can afford it. Otherwise, I'd say Højlund. Jackson and Nunez are the same, honestly. Yeah, I mean, they're similar. I think Darwin might have a bit more to his game. He also has the assists with him. But a lot of Liverpool fans were bigging Darwin up until recently. It's just now that the results aren't going their way and Darwin's missing chances, he's kind of getting the brunt of the criticism. Overall, -8 to bench boost and 37 for Petrovic, Flecken, Gusto, Dallo, Van der Ven, Cher, Gabriel, Palmer, Foden, Bruno, Son, Gordon, Haaland, Alvarez, Isak. Thoughts? Yeah, it looks good overall. There's certain picks here and there I'm not a big fan of. So Flecken will be one, even Van der Ven potentially. Let's see if Gusto and Cher are back from injury. But if illnesses and suspensions and injuries are kind to you, that's a good bench boost team. Dubravka's slowly making me go insane. How can you not keep a clean sheet against Crapfield United? Well, to be fair, Sheffield United have scored, against Liverpool, against Manchester United recently. And with Newcastle, I thought they'd keep a clean sheet, but it wasn't an absolute lock-in. They did very well to respond. They actually set a new record. They scored 13 goals past them. So that's they've set that record. It's insane. But yeah, look, it is what it is. I'm happy I didn't start or go for Dubravka, but that was mainly because of the Pope factor. Almost a fairy tale finish if Jackson goal wasn't ruled out and he scored the Cucurella assist. Yeah, but it's Chelsea, and right now Chelsea are just in an awful state. Well, yeah, exactly that way, saying even as good as City have been in the last few years, I think they probably deserve to lose today, but Nottingham Forest missed 2 sitters. I mean, Chris Wood, he's a Man City fan, maybe 116th charge incoming. Yeah, with Man City, they just find a way to win in the business end of the season. I never saw this Forest game as a game they dropped points in. Same with Brighton. I think Tottenham is the most likely. But if we get to a stage where Aston Villa have secured 4th and Spurs are only going to finish 5th, they might even just put a reserve team and let City beat them for the sake of pride, so to speak. But yeah, we'll wait and see. I think Spurs is the game that City could drop points in. Isak and KDB for a -4. Depends who you're selling. But in isolation, I like both transfers in, of course. Gibbs White Wood for 1 week punt. Did you see Chris Wood today? There's no chance I'm recommending him after that. He has been quite good this season, but nah. If I had to pick one, it'd be Gibbs White. I think he played quite well today, some great turns, and he just has that quality that's far above any Forest player. No, not Chris Wood for me. Would you sell Tony to Haaland or a Doggy to Gvardiol, already on KDB and Foden? Tony to Haaland for me has the bigger upside. Freddie says it's perfect, and Patrick says audio sounds good. Yeah, because I also noticed with something else I'm using connected to the same USB source, it was flickering, and that was a bit strange to me. So yeah, hopefully it stays that way and the audio is good. So yeah, thank you, Zenzone there. No, I don't think it's a YouTube problem. I think it's just on my end. There's probably a cable or something. Patrick says, hi Dylan, no good to take Saka out. What City defender to go for? Right now it'd be Gvardiol, but I still think both of them will be rotated in one game, and it could be in Gameweek 37 when you need them. Being a Chelsea fan, life must be depressing. By the way, I ain't a Chelsea fan, but football runs in cycles, right? Chelsea had that 20-year period, or 18 years, where they were one of the best teams in England, and they won 2 Champions Leagues. But yeah, historically, I mean, Chelsea typically aren't anywhere near that. What's your thoughts on Emery? He's always relaxed after leading and getting comeback to make Chelsea look good. I don't know, look, when Emery was at Arsenal, I actually backed him a lot. But I have to say, he was, how do I say this without being rude? I mean, at Arsenal, I have to say, and you could argue that the club itself has maybe a bad mentality over the last 10, 20 years, but I do think with Emery, exactly what you say, getting comeback so often, conceding far too many chances and goals. Look, he's done a great job at Villa, one of the best managers this season, but yeah, it's kind of Villa unpredictable. They can beat City at home or Arsenal, both home and away, and then they drop points to worse teams. But that's kind of Emery in a nutshell, in my opinion. I think he'll win Europa Conference League. He'll finish 4th, but yeah, I do see it kind of tumbling down at some point, and there have been a lot of warning signs already. On a wild card, sold Dallo for Romero in the last minute. Well, fair play. It's paid off so far. Romero was Spurs' best player by far. He kept them in it, and yeah, it looks pretty good so far, but I still don't like Romero too much going forwards, but you've got to take the points. I'm a Madrid fan. I hope Arsenal win it. They fully deserve it. Well, it depends how they do in the last 3 games. If they perform well, win the games, then I'd say they deserve it. But ultimately, if City go on and win the rest, then it is what it is. And yeah, obviously Real Madrid, I'm not sure if you're aware, by the way, Bayern Munich have a lot of injury problems going into the semi-finals, so it's looking good for you. 6 bloody injuries for defenders since Gameweek 30 wildcard. Still great free hit 34 is pushing hard. Contemplating -8, Gusto, Solanke and Rico Lewis out for Walker, Jackson, White. Bench boost with 2 Arsenal defenders, the rest are rubbish. Yeah, look, I wanted to go for two Arsenal defenders or Raya in goal, but it's just that Game Week 37 fixture against Man United away. I even said it for this game. I just don't see them keeping a clean sheet. And they should have today after going 3-0 up, but they somehow managed to make it difficult for themselves. So I hope it goes well for you. But I'm not going to lie, Man United away is going to be very tough. It will be similar to today, I think. Hi Dylan, great content as always. How do you see the mid-table and top six might change next season, future season? That's a good question. If you're going to ask me about this season, I'm not really too interested. Or is it still too big of a gap for the mid-table teams to top teams? Well, we always get a surprise, right? Aston Villa have been the surprise package this year, but if you look at a lot of early season predictions, you know, people had Aston Villa as a dark horse. I think Chelsea will massively improve, and I said this last year and I was wrong, but I genuinely mean that. I think Chelsea will improve, especially if they change manager and make some great signings, not just splashing cash, you know, without any sense or logic whatsoever. So I do see Chelsea kind of creeping into the top 7, 8, maybe even top 6, who knows. I think Liverpool finish 4th. That's kind of my early prediction right now. Yeah, it's difficult predicting that kind of third team who could maybe challenge Arsenal, Man City for the title. But yeah, for what you're saying, top 6, I think Aston Villa drop out. That'd be my prediction. I think Villa drop out. I think they won't deal with the Champions League kind of, yeah, just dealing with that many games and that level of quality. I think they will drop off a little bit unless they have a great summer. And I also think, yeah, Chelsea might even take their place, dare I say. But who knows? Who knows? I mean, football is very hard to predict, especially in the Premier League. And I think the summer transfer window is very crucial. Amarin, overhyped, no idea how the manager looks like. I know him a little bit. You know, he was at Sporting when they knocked out Arsenal in the Europa League, and I think he's a decent manager, but I haven't seen too much of him. And Sporting are on course to win the title, so he has some potential, but I don't think he's right for Liverpool. And one thing that was marked as a reason why they aren't going to go for him in the end is because he likes to play a back three, which isn't really in line with Liverpool's long-term vision. Don says -4 for KDB and Isak. Yeah, I answered your question earlier. Once again, I don't know who you're selling to get that, but I do like those transfers in. No, I mean, look, Chris Wood scored last season against City in that 1-1 draw, but he was literally their 12th player today. I mean, he was absolutely ridiculous. You know, he'd have the ball, he'd go backwards, give a pass to someone else and put them under pressure, and then Forest lose the ball. So he was absolutely awful today. Up to 4K, I want to protect rank. Bench boost 37, Bradley to White this week. Look, for Gimmick 36 and 38, I think Ben White could be quite decent. My personal take is that Arsenal keep one clean sheet in the last 3 games. The most likely is Everton at home. So I'd actually rather go in a different direction. But I understand if you don't want to double up on Man United, Chelsea, Spurs defensively. I completely get that. And Arsenal would be more reliable. But if possible, I would go in another direction. What to do with Fabian Schär? Should I swap him for another Newcastle defender for next week? Or any other defender suggestions? Depends on your setup, right? And it comes down to that. Do you have 2 United defenders already with Onana in goal and maybe Dalot? That's what it comes down to. But I wouldn't mind going to Burn. It's just you look at the fixtures coming up for Newcastle. I probably see 1 clean sheet left for them as well. To be fair, Van der Ven scored a few weeks ago and inches away from scoring against Arsenal. That is true. Flecken I could take out for another -4, but -12 is a bit too much unless I can get Ortega. Yeah, if Edison's out for a long time, Ortega could be a great shout there. But look, it's kind of nitpicking. I just don't see them keeping a clean sheet against Bournemouth away. But Flecken could do something. And yeah, I don't think it's a bad bench boost at all. Do you feel optimistic of Arsenal's remaining fixtures? With Arsenal, I'm always worried about them self-imploding. And you saw that towards the end of the game today. They can win the rest of the games. There's no doubt about it. But Bournemouth and Everton at home aren't easy. And Man United isn't a happy hunting ground. Old Trafford, I mean, Arsenal have won there twice, 3 times maybe, since 2006. 1 in the FA Cup, twice in the league. So it's going to be very difficult. So yeah, I think Arsenal can do it, but then you're also relying on City to drop points, which is also a big ask. But yeah, I'd say I'm fairly optimistic, but I could see a draw in there out of the last 3 games, and I hope I'm wrong. Triple captain for Gameweek 37. It's between Son, Palmer and Haaland. Maybe even Foden or De Bruyne if they're fit. Of course, Haaland came on today and scored. Foden was out due to illness. I think I'd go for one of those 5. And if I had to pick right now, I'd say Foden or De Bruyne. Will hits in the last game week going to pay off or not worth it? I think I took one last season and still got a green arrow. Yeah, they can pay off. Game Week 38 tends to be the highest scoring week, to be fair. There's a lot of goals. In certain matches, there's no pressure because certain objectives have been achieved or a certain team is already relegated. So yeah, I think Game Week 38 could be a nice time to either free hit or in certain cases, take a hit and go for the jugular. Please say it in a rude way. I'm not going to do that. Good to keep things PG, I think. Onto the strikers. Haaland has no service. Pedro is more and more meh with some ridiculous rotation. There is just no choice. Jackson at least has some good fixtures and okay yesterday. Yeah, look, I didn't want Jackson necessarily. If I had the funds, I would have gone for Watkins, but I see your point. I don't think there's a genuine third striker. It's Isak, Haaland, and then you're kind of hoping and praying for your third option to do well. I think from now until the end of the season, it's probably Rasmus Højlund who's the best option on paper. And of course, Ollie Watkins, if you can afford him, just go for him. Bench one next week, Son, Bruno, Gordon, all playing away, Jackson playing at home. It's between Gordon and Jackson to bench. I'd probably bench Gordon. Would love if Arnis signs Coop Miners and Bowen in the summer. Yeah, I can see what you're saying there. Bowen seems like a Liverpool-type player, doesn't he? But yeah, Coop Miners, by the way, I've seen he's got a lot of hype this season. I saw him in the World Cup as well. I think he was involved in that goal against Argentina. Yeah, let's wait and see how it all pans out. But I think he will be a good manager and do a decent job at Liverpool, but it might take some time and suffering. I wouldn't have any negative Emery talk. I mean, you can do what you want. I mean, Emery is doing a really good job at Villa, but I do think, look, there's something about the way he coaches and also, I don't know, every single team that he coaches just concedes far too many chances. At Paris Saint-Germain, that's why they bottled, this is one of the biggest bottle jobs of all time against Barcelona, and he's done it multiple times. But, of course, you can't argue with his Europa League record, and he's done a great job this season, of course. I had Watkins in my starting 11, kind of expected a return. So did I. I'm very surprised he didn't. Any updates with the Edison injury? Someone in the live chat said that Pep Guardiola mentioned it in his press conference and it doesn't look good, but I don't know anything. Who will take the share spot? That's a great question. I mean, we could be looking at Kraft, right? I mean, we could be looking at a really bad defensive line on paper for Newcastle. Is Fernandes to De Bruyne a good transfer? I'd keep Bruno with the form he's in, personally, but De Bruyne is a great transfer in right now. There's no doubt about it. I'd keep Bruno there. Play Porro or Maguire, considering Sher is out next week. I'd play Maguire. Welcome, FVM. Sí, con la Champions, mañana voy a grabar algunos videos. Te digo la verdad, con el Limitless no parece muy bien porque es muy fácil crear un equipo y el Limitless no vale nada en este momento, pero sí, voy a hacer un video de el wildcard y el team selection. After Pep and Klopp, he's the third best manager in the league. I disagree, to be honest, but it's up to you. Took over at Villa last season when they were in the relegation zone. Emery's a genius. Look, he's a good manager, but genius, I'd reserve that for Klopp and Pep, to be honest. He's a good manager. There's a good case for him being the third best, but I don't think so, personally. How would you feel as an Arsenal fan? 2 seasons coming close to the title, but still no trophy. You all deserve it. Well, that's part of football, right? And look at Liverpool. 1 title in one of their golden eras anyway, especially in the Premier League era. It's just Man City. It is what it is. But yeah, I still think Arsenal will get over the line at some stage. It's just a question of when. If it's not this season, probably the next. And if not, you're looking at the one after. But there is that foundation for long-term success. But Chelsea improved. Last season was 12th, and now there is a chance for top 8. Well, yes, but it's still... Let's face it, Chelsea should face more heat for how bad they're doing. But yeah, I think they will improve next season. Will they eventually become a title challenger? I don't see it right now, but to be honest, no one saw Arsenal a few years ago, or even Liverpool under Klopp back in 2015. Saka to KDB or Van Heck, Gusto to a City defender? That's a great question. This week, I'd keep Saka against Bournemouth at home. I'd do the defender transfer, and at the moment, I'd sell Van Heck. Free hitting in 37, have to use 1 free transfer this week. Who to bring in? Best player to own this week? That's a great question. I don't know who you have already, which makes it difficult, but I'd say a De Bruyne or Foden, if you don't have them already, would be a great option. I also think City will keep a clean sheet against Wolves, so maybe Gavardi or Walker at the back, Ortega. Of course, you don't really want to focus on a goalkeeper transfer or even defenders, so I'm going to stick with attackers, and I'm going to go for De Bruyne or Foden, if they're fit. I still don't own Gordon, as he's more of a home player. I wouldn't buy him against Burnley. you're completely right about that. He is a home merchant. That is the definition of it. Patrick says, have Foden, Fernandes, Gordon, Son, Palmer, Isak, Haaland, Jackson as my front 8. Would you swap any of them for De Bruyne or do 8 Nuri to Gvardiol? So for this week specifically, I think Gordon is the weak link, but I'd keep him for Gameweek 37. So as good as De Bruyne is, you can make one of those transfers, maybe Foden if he's still out, but I'd focus on the defender and get Gvardiol for 8 Nuri. I really would. 52 points, very good. I don't think so, to be honest, because I'm on a minimal green arrow. Maybe I'll feel differently by the end of the Chelsea-Spurs game, but yeah, it's not looking great so far. And I was also close to getting Gvardiol and starting him, but I went for Ederson instead. Van der Ven goal ruled out killed me. I would have gotten a lot of points. Obviously, sad from that perspective. I'm very happy that it was ruled out and it was the right decision. I saw Manice and he scores. Yep. I benched him in Gameweek 34. He got an assist against Liverpool. I sold him this week. He scored when I had him. Absolutely useless. Mateta missed 2 sitters against Liverpool before the 29 haul. Just saying. Yeah, look, with Mateta, happy what he did for me last week. He saved my Gameweek 34. Otherwise, it would have been a disaster. But I don't think I'm going back there this season. Share to Porro next game week. Yeah, I think so. If Share's still ruled out and he's out for Gameweek 37, I would do that. I think Chelsea will improve after the new manager as the owner has slowly reduced over interference on football decisions, maybe. The thing is, who do you get in? That's also crucial. If you get a top manager in, who knows? Who is even available? Conte? I mean, Zidane? I just don't see that happening, but yeah, if Chelsea make the right appointment, they could even get into the top 4. You just never know. Mateta against Man United over Gordon for next week? I probably would, you know. I think I'd start Mateta. If Gordon was at home, I'd definitely start him, but the fact he's away, I'm going to go for Mateta. As I'd said in the deadline stream, I'm cooked 35 points. Yeah, look, there's still a little while to go in Gameweek 35, but I do feel for you. And hopefully you can bounce back in the remaining Gameweeks of the season. Should I buy 2 Man City midfielders for 37, KDB and Foden? Should I, rather than buying consistent Son? I prefer Son, just because of the minutes. With De Bruyne, I still think he could be benched in a game. I don't mind 2 Man City attackers in the midfield, but I'd still go for Son. But Chelsea's interested in signing Bowen as well. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure which sources are saying this, but I'm always a bit careful with transfer talk and paper talk. I don't trust most of it. Only Palmer captain left. I wish you the best, Javain. I think he'll do well against Spurs, and I could see Chelsea getting a win. I'm kind of torn between 2-2 and 2-1 Chelsea. Worth keeping Bruno or move to KDB? Keep Bruno. Buy Foden or KDB for Gameweek 37. Still Foden for me, but De Bruyne is very hard to ignore right now. Captain Son instead of Palmer, earned 14 points, fair play. Look, once again, a lot of times with these captaincy decisions, it comes down to these very fine margins. Obviously, it was a penalty, a very clear one by Declan Rice. Apart from that, I think Heung-min Son was very poor today, very anonymous, but that's what it is, you know. He's a penalty taker, just like Palmer this season, with 9 penalties. And let's see what happens in the second game. Where did Jackson get the idea to shave off his hair? Not sure, but it's not working. Would you take Bruno G at Arsenal? I would, but I don't know. He is a bit of a prick, if we're being completely honest. He is a good player, and under the right environment, he could flourish, a bit like Declan Rice, where you might have looked at him at West Ham and thought, oh, he's bang average, but, you know, he's made that step up, the top assist in 2024. I could see him doing really well at Arsenal in the midfield, but he's also linked to City. I think City will get him, to be honest. Is this Newcastle team the team with the most injuries in one season ever? I'm sure there's probably a worse example, and it could be someone who got relegated a few years ago or something, but it's up there, that's for sure. Should I keep Eze for Gameweek 36? I'd probably go elsewhere. So Anthony Gordon for 37 is great. You're also looking at Garnacho there amongst budget midfielders. I think you could go in a different direction. Who are the hot potential stars that'll be targeted in the summer transfer window for the Premiership? With Salah gone, budget going to be very easy to manage? It's a great question. Transfers are even more difficult to predict than, you know, results and stuff like that, in my opinion. I'm going to have to think about that one, but yeah, star. I mean, Musiala is heavily linked to Man City, so that could be one, but yeah, I'm going to stick with Musiala, but I honestly have no idea. What rank do you reckon is your best case finish? I'd say 50k I'll push. You know, that'd be I'd have to do really well in the remaining gameweeks of the season. My bench boost has to, you know, go off. And if all that goes to plan, then yeah, I'd say 50k. The quotes for Shea are actually optimistic that he's not severely injured, just a tight hamstring. Yeah, you're right. Someone mentioned that earlier in this live chat, but with Edison, it's a different story. Those that went for both, very unlucky. Top 5 most underrated players in the Premier League, in your opinion? Gabriel springs to mind immediately because I just think non-Arsenal fans don't really appreciate how good he is. I think a lot of them would be at the so-called, you know, lesser or smaller clubs. So that's a great question. That is a great question, I have to say that. Okay, so yeah, I'd say Douglas Luiz, Gabriel. Wow, I'm kind of struggling for these 5 players here. I think Bernardo Silva is actually underrated just because everyone looks at De Bruyne, Foden, all these players, but Bernardo Silva is quality. He might not get many goals or assists, but he's one of the best dribblers in the world, and he makes City tick. So I'd put Bernardo Silva in there. 2 left. It gets very tricky, you know, because I'd be very tempted to say Arsenal players like Ben White, who, once again, non-Arsenal fans won't really appreciate him or think he's that good, but I think he is. But I'll try to, you know, give some different names out there, you know. That's kind of what you want to do. Oof. I'd maybe say Bruno Guimaraes, maybe, but I don't like him at all. As a player, in terms of how dirty he is, I don't like him, but maybe he's underrated. Without him, Newcastle always look quite lost. You know what? I'd actually say Joelinton might be very underrated. He's not great on the eye, but I think he's Newcastle's most important player. So you know what? I'm going to go for Joelinton. But I have to say, I'm probably missing a lot of names in here. If I had to pick a 5th one, where do I even go? I honestly, no idea. Mamma mia, this is a very tough one. I'm going to have to think. Maybe in the live chat, you can help me out and put a 5th player in there. I like McAllister a lot. I really do. I'd maybe put McAllister in there, but I think I'm forgetting some big names there. Brighton, for me, are slowly becoming overrated. Too many goals they're conceding. Their goal of the month is the own goal by Muric. So, yeah. Look, Brighton have done a great job to get where they're at. But, yeah, I think Graham Potter built the foundations. The Zerbi kind of benefited from it. He took them to maybe another level, arguably. But now I think the wheels are starting to fall off a little bit. I still think he's a good manager, but a bit overrated. He especially was last season. And Brighton, very inconsistent. Gordon to Richarlison, Johnson in 37. Not for me. I can see what you're doing, but there's rotation there with the Spurs attackers. And actually, Gordon, I know he's got a lack of home games, but I'd still keep him. If Edison is out for the season, better to go Onana or Ortega and double Man United defence, eventually additionally Gabriel out for Gvardiol. I'd rather go for Onana and go for Gvardiol right now. How much impact do you think new FFP rules will affect Premier League? I think it will kind of tone down the spending a little bit and make clubs more conscious, but no matter what happens, you know, if Man City are proven guilty, they have to be punished, you know, accordingly. Don't give this, you know, fine talk. That's not going to do. That's what I'm going to say on that one. Sold Foden in Gameweek 33 as he was benched and he got a brace. Yeah, same here. And in Gameweek 34, you know, once I made the transfer, I actually realised, wait, I could have kept Foden, which I wanted to do. And yeah, that's been a disaster. So Foden's been trolling me recently. I've got a bad history of him in FPL. He's done well for me this season, but yeah, it's gone back to the trolling. Dylan, thoughts on Salah going to Saudi this summer? Yeah, I think a summer transfer move does look very likely now, given everything that's transpired, but it's not set in stone. There's still a chance he stays or stays in Europe at least. Conte's going to Napoli, it's almost confirmed. Fair enough, that's actually an interesting appointment. Wow, Serie A could be interesting, but Inter Milan are, you know, they're kind of building a dynasty there in Italy, so they're going to be very hard to dethrone. I had Haaland and Gvardiol on my bench, so I won't get Gvardiol's points. Well, at least you got Haaland's points, but yeah, that's not really any solace. I'm on 52 points, minus 12. Bought in De Bruyne, good stuff. Bruno, Isak, Son, and captain. Took out Eze, Haaland, Diaz, Salah. Well, your transfers have been spot on, and they needed to be in order to kind of keep pace with non-wildcard, or yeah, to keep up with wildcarders. So looks good. Would you start Jackson or Gordon in 36? My current preference would be Jackson, but yeah, even with Gordon away from home, I don't know, man. Jackson is just not reliable. I'd only start him in double game mix, really. Feels like Tuchel can only succeed in Chelsea in terms of playing style and his ego as well. Yeah, and he's got one league title in his career. He's a good manager, by the way, very tactically astute, but he's more of a cup manager. And he only won the Bundesliga last year because Dortmund bottled it. Obi 7 goals, yeah, that was incredible. I mean, to win 7-0 and to score all 7, I mean, that's just sensational. Ruler 2 says, hey Dylan, I have Bowen, KDB, Gordon, and Saka in the midfield. Solanke, Isak, and Haaland. This week has been fire. Yeah, that Bowen and Saka, well, to be honest, every single one of them have got a double-digit return, so fair play. That's a great midfield. You can't ask for much more. Solanke's the only letdown, but you can forgive that. On bench boost 37, Cher and Van Heck both injured this week. Need to sell Darwin. Keep the injured players one more week or wait for injury news. I'd wait for injury news. I wouldn't take a minus hit right now. No. Overall 25k, currently from 4 million in Game Week 9. Do you think top 10k is still achievable? Yes. You just need a great end to the season. It's United this season with the most injuries in the Premier League season, 64. Is that the actual record, though, of all time? But yeah, this season, United, Newcastle, Chelsea, they've been right up there. Every team has had injuries, surprisingly. Actually, I'm not going to say it. I don't want to jinx. Musiala to see next season. Yeah, that was kind of my tip, I guess, of a superstar signing. But Bayern are going to be very... yeah, they're going to want to keep him at all costs. He's one of the best talents in Europe. And I think next season in the Champions League, he'll step up big time. But actually, he's a major doubt for the game against Madrid. He could actually be out for the next few weeks. From the stats, why do you think Gordon doesn't play well in away games? I think it also has to do with Newcastle, who are much stronger at home. And I don't know, sometimes it comes down to the crowd, the atmosphere. You just love playing in a certain stadium. But I think it's just Newcastle. They're much weaker away from home. They create fewer chances and they kind of mainly go on the counter-attack there. So, yeah, the way they play in home games really suits Gordon, and I think that's why he's so good there. Best defender for the highest upside plus minutes for the remaining game weeks? Probably Gavardio at this point, mate. I mean, the minutes is still a concern for me, but he's scoring and assisting in most games right now. Apart from that, maybe an Arsenal defender still. So one of Gabriel, Saliba or White. Gavardio. Anyone else who springs to mind? I mean, it would have been Trippier, but he's still injured, so that's a shame. I'm probably going to go for that. An Arsenal defender or Gavardio. Should I sell Zabani, Van Dijk, and Doughty for Game Week 37? I would, yes. Zabani missed out today completely. Van Dijk, very easy sell, and he's an awful transfer for me. He did nothing in Double Gameweek 34, and even beforehand. Yeah, and Doughty, he's not getting any assists to kind of cover up Luton Town's poor defence, so they're all sells. I'd definitely upgrade on them. With Salah gone, do you think the Arsenal mid assets will go above 10 million? Even if Salah stayed in the Premier League, I think Saka's 11 million next season, 11.5. I really do. As for Havertz, I think he'll be 9 to 9.5, and Odegaard will probably be 10. That's my prediction. So I'll say Saka, 11.5, Odegaard, probably 10, and Havertz I could see being 9 to 9.5 million. How do you think less double gameweeks will affect the game? That's a great question. Might lead to less variance. I think that's one factor. And it also could downplay the planning aspect of it. So you have a bit less... I mean, it's kind of weird when you put it that way because, less skill and also less luck involved. But it kind of comes down to more than that. But that's a great question. I do think variance will decrease as a result. Best bench boost 37 or 38? Definitely 37, man. I mean, you've got 6 teams doubling. It has to be 37. Luisa Guerrero says goalkeepers Neto and Areola. Yeah, facepalm. Zabani, Aït-Nouri and Gusto injured, and I still have Salah. Should I prioritize KDB or get goalkeeper or defender? That's a great question, man, because Salah to KDB looks great. I'd recommend that. But you're literally down to 10 men at the moment with your goalkeeper situation. Areola, you could be out for the next game. Neto was dropped. It is a lower upside move, though. Salah at home to Tottenham, he can deliver if he starts. He really can. And I personally would back him to start despite everything that's transpired recently. So you know what? I'm actually going to keep Salah in this case and focus on your goalkeeper and defenders. I think that's what I do first. But in time for Game Week 37, you could take a hit and buy De Bruyne or Bruno Fernandes, Foden, etc. or Salah. What was your opinion on the Wenger out movement at the time and the few calling for Arteta to be sacked after the Bayern game? Some great questions coming in today, I'm not going to lie. Yeah, with Wenger out, look, probably my favourite manager of all time, so it really hurt, you know, that period. I thought he probably had to go, especially after one of the FA Cup wins, you know, go out, you know, in style after winning a trophy. And it just got toxic. And in the last season, the away record was absolutely abysmal. Reached the cup final, got battered, and yeah, there was no progress being made. So I think it was the right decision to sack him, but I don't like the way some people went about it in terms of, you know, personal attacks and all this stuff, you know, kind of pushing out the best ever manager at Arsenal. As for Arteta, I'm not going to lie. So after the Bayern game, I never said Arteta out. But what I did question, and I still question now, is Arteta the guy to take Arsenal to the finish line? Because he's done a great job at Arsenal. You know, he's won some shields. He's won also the FA Cup. But in terms of the Premier League title, if you just keep on getting to the final stage and faltering, that is the problem. But I have to say, if Arsenal win the last few games, that'd be 15 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss. And you can't say that's bottling. You know, even if City go on to win it, that's an amazing end to the season. And then you kind of look to next season and you hope for the best there. But Arteta, I think, is the right man for the job. I think he will get Arsenal over the line, but there are some things I don't like about, you know, what he's done in the last few years. I think sometimes he's too slow with the substitutions, and I also think that in the crucial end of the season, there is definitely a question to be asked about Arsenal, and also, not even just that, every single season Arsenal go on multiple winless streaks, and you can't do that, especially against Man City. In December, that run of 1 win out of 7 games in all comps, that could actually, you know, be the fatal blow to Arsenal's title hopes. So let's see how it all pans out. But I think Arteta is the right man for the job, but I can still question him, and people should be able to do that. Some people, though, just look for clout and they just chat crap all the time. I meant all time. Sorry, Dylan. No worries. Chelsea is finished. Bernardo Silva's goddamn underrated. Look how many positions he has played over the years. Yeah, I think Bernardo Silva's a decent shout. Maybe my other ones weren't so great. Yeah, I said Douglas Luiz, Gabriel, and Joelinton, just because of how important he is to Newcastle, and non-Newcastle fans fail to recognise that. Wissa so underrated. You know, a few years ago, I think he scored against Chelsea at the Bridge. I think Brentford won 4-1. I said at that point, you know, Wissa, this guy, whenever he comes on, he does something. But this season, I haven't been, you know, that big of a fan of him. I have to say, CGL with some great shouts there, especially Gibbs White. I think he's a great shout. Aït-Nouri's good, but very injury prone. Obviously, when he does play, he's good. But I'd put Gibbs White above him. Wang heavily underrated. How can we call him a Korean guy? That was Pep. Yeah. Let's not say more about that. But Wang's a good player. I don't think he's the most underrated per se, but it's a good shout. When is the best game week to play bench boost triple captain? Wow, he's still got those chips left. I mean, bench boost 37, very easy. Then you look at probably game week 38 for the triple captaincy, but it all depends on who you back the most with that armband. But definitely use the bench boost in 37. Bruno Fernandes definitely underrated, gets slayed all the time, but in my opinion is a brilliant creative player. His numbers don't lie. Up there every season for creative numbers. Okay, so I think that's a good shout. You know, Bruno Fernandes has been great recently, but I'm going to... Look, because I don't think it's a bad call what you're saying. I just respectfully disagree. I think he's a very good player. He creates a lot of chances. You're right about that. His output is also incredible for a midfielder. But I also think some of his weaknesses hold United back in a way. And right now he's carrying them. There's no doubt about it. But he loses the ball far too often. And in terms of keeping the ball, I think he's probably one of the worst in terms of comparing him to the likes of De Bruyne, for example, Bernardo Silva. But then again, I'm comparing him to 2 of the best players in the league. So it's a great shout what you're saying, but I disagree. Is Malacia even alive, bro? He didn't play a single game in the Prem. Yeah, I think he's been injured all season. He had a decent start last campaign, but yeah, quickly faded away, and now he's injured all the time. Is Cher fine? So according to Eddie Howe, it looks decent, so it's not a big problem. But let's see what happens in the next few updates. I wouldn't count, you know, your chickens just yet, but I think he will be fine. Which double gameweek teams in 37 will be better for a clean sheet? Probably Man City. I think a clean sheet against Fulham. Against Spurs, I think they concede, but probably Man City. Apart from that, I'd say Spurs at home to Burnley. So I'd probably highlight those 2. I think the rest, so Newcastle, Brighton, Man United, I don't see any of them keeping a clean sheet. I think the writing's on the wall of Ten Hag. Can't see how he's United manager next season. I'm in a group chat, right, with a few United fans, and I bang my head against the wall telling them Ten Hag's not the right guy. Obviously, I can kind of relate. You know, I did this with Emery, where you kind of hope for the best and, you know, think he's the right manager. But ultimately, there are too many signs and you need to realize at some point it's the wrong call. So, yeah, I completely agree. If United want to make that step forward and compete for the title in 2-3 years' time, which they can do, I think they need to change manager. 5 underrated, Watkins, Gross, Cunha. Thank you very much. You named the guy I forgot about, Gross. Yeah, Pascal Gross, that is a great shout. Watkins, I think, is getting a bit more credit because of what he's doing this season. But you have to say all 5 of them are great picks. Even Leon Bailey. Yeah, Gross for me is probably the most underrated, if not second or third. Very, very good player. Branthwaite underrated. Yeah, you're right. I remember against Liverpool in the 2-0 loss, he really actually stood out as a great performance, and that kind of took my attention. I thought, this guy, I mean, he looks like a top quality defender already, and he's so young. He's linked to Tottenham actually. Let's see if they buy him. That would actually be an upgrade in my opinion. Newcastle have the highest missed days for injured players. Been awful for us. Yeah, you're right. So Man United have more injuries, but you have more days missed due to injuries. So yeah, that is the big difference there. Best defender for 37, other than City, United, Chelsea, and Newcastle. It's not looking good. I'm saying Spurs. So you're looking at Borro, Romero, Van der Ven, probably. And Borro is still my preference. Romero will be second. So yeah, apart from that, if I can maybe bring myself to name someone else in Gameweek 37. It's going to be a difficult one. Yeah, I just don't really like the options. For defenders, it doesn't look really great. Maybe Lewis Dunk, but I don't see Brian keeping a clean sheet. Of course, Arsenal, but they're away to Man United. I have to say, probably I'm going to stick with Everton defenders like Branthwaite and Spurs defenders like Borro. That's probably what I'd say. Bench Pickford for Petrovic. Is he worth keeping for a bench boost now that Everton are safe? Yeah, you'd want to focus your transfers on outfield players. And I see what you're saying there, because Everton, they're safe now. They have nothing to play for. So you could see them conceding now in every game remaining. But I'd keep Pickford on the bench boost given this form. Gavardio saved my game week against the wildcarders. Fair play. I almost went for him, so the less said about him, the better. Should we change Share to Burn or wait? I'd wait. I think Share will be fine, actually. Jota's on the raid as well. Yeah, good shout. Even Liverpool themselves don't know they have a top forward over Darwin. The problem is that Jota's made of glass, especially this season. He just always seems to get injured, but very clinical, very efficient. And I think if he was still fit, who knows, Liverpool could still be in the title race. Will Gusto be back versus Spurs? We don't know. We honestly don't. My gut feeling is no. Lo Celso over or underrated? For me, underrated. I wouldn't say top 5 most underrated in the Prem because he barely plays, but he was a starter consistently for the best national team in the world. Yeah, I think Lo Celso's a quality player. He's got that magic about him, that flair, but he's never used by Tottenham. I said it back then in 2018, he should never have gone to Tottenham. I can understand why he did, with Pochettino there. They had something building, but he joined at the exact wrong time. And he's been criminally underused, in my opinion. And also very injury-prone, to be fair. Zabani or Share to Burn? I'd rather sell Zabani. FPL always underprices players. Would be more interesting if they raised them higher. Yeah, you're right. Maybe some of mine will be a bit overvalued. But I still think Saka will be 11, 11.5. I really do. And I think Odegaard 9.5 to 10 minimum. And same with Havertz 9+. Bruno or Foden? Foden for me. On 66 with 5 to play could be worse. It could be much worse. That's good. I'd say Barnes on the raid as well. Always delivers when he gets minutes. Yeah, look, there's some really good shouts there. I think I'm going to stick with what I said before. So Gabriel, the centre-back from Arsenal. Gross, that was a great shout there. Yeah, and I'd also say Douglas Luiz, Joelinton. I had to pick one more. I mean, it's now, my mind's going blank, but McAllister is another one. Bench Davis as well, says Marco. Yeah, won the penalty. Top 3 most underrated players in Premier League of all time. Look, I'm an Arsenal fan, so I'm going to maybe be biased, but the first name that springs to my head is Pires. I just don't see him talked about enough nowadays, and he was instrumental in the unbeaten season in 2002 as well, when Arsenal went unbeaten away from home. I think Robert Pires is one of the best wingers in Premier League history, so I'm going to go for him. I think David Silva is absolute class. I think he's better than De Bruyne, personally, but De Bruyne has the numbers over David Silva. So I'd say Pires, David Silva, and look, there's so many players in history. I'm forgetting so many names, but those two spring to mind. And if I had to pick a third one, wow, I think Sol Campbell's very underrated as well, but I'll try to give a non-Arsenal name there, for the sake of balance and all of that. I think Park Ji-sung was very underrated for Man United. I think a lot of you would probably mention him as a name there. Wow. There are so many names. I'll have to think about the third one. 67 -8 with Palmer captain and Son to go. I'll take that. Green arrow almost surely locked. Good stuff, Diogo. Hopefully you can get to 100 points. That'd be great. Will Man United fire Ten Hag at the end of the season or give him a chance for another year? I think they'll give him another year. Bruno is overrated rather than underrated. I think I see Sean's point. He is overhated by rival fans, and he is also, from some people, underrated. But yeah, I don't see him as underrated or overrated, personally. I just think he's a quality creator. He's very good in the final third, but very poor in possession. And I think there are a lot of midfielders better than him. So Musiala, for me, Odegaard, De Bruyne, and there are many more out there as well. Joe Gomez will soon start attracting attention. Joe Gomez? Are you trying to sell him for Liverpool's sake? I don't know what you're doing there. Mbumo, yeah, he's a good player. Yeah, you put in some good suggestions there too. What happened to Ferguson? Great question. Decent young lad, but injured all season. I think it's just that. And when he was fit, there was a lot of rotation going on. I think De Zerbi has probably over-rotated in certain games. Why do the United outfield players don't pass the ball to Højlund? Great question as well. I mean, Bruno creates so many chances, but they're never for Højlund, so to speak. I also think sometimes Højlund's movement could be better. I think he's a quality young talent. He's got potential, but I sometimes think his runs are also a problem. But the main issue is the creativity to him. He doesn't receive the ball enough. Boy Gvardiol last minute because I couldn't afford Walker and he scored. Havertz with 10 needed that. He's actually on 13 with the bonus points, so enjoy it. I had a red arrow last game week. Yeah, that's why. In FPL and football, you always get that, very quick response in just a couple of days' time. Tio says, or Dale, thank you for all the responses, ladies and gents. Hit the like and subscribe for the great lad. Thank you very much, mate. Expected price for Palmer, Watkins, Gvardiol next season. Gvardiol, I'd say 5 to 5.5 million. I'm actually going to go for 5.5. Watkins, I think 10.5. I'm going to go for 10.5 there. And Palmer has to be 10 million, surely, right? I mean, he's literally got over 200 points. Yeah, I'd say Palmer 10 million, Watkins 10.5, and Gvardiol 5.5. I don't see a team in Premier League where Gross doesn't start or play like 9 out of 10 games. I mean, I'd take him at Arsenal as the left centre mid, to be fair. I would. I think he doesn't start at City, as good as he is, but I take your point. In most teams, he does start. No, I don't watch cricket, to be honest. I don't watch a lot of sports, actually. I'm very particular with my taste. 65 players injured, had so many decisions against us, like the handball yesterday, but people think it's the manager's fault. I mean, that's literally what my friends think. I mean, yes, there have been decisions against Man United, but you can't just say that because conceding, what? You're in the bottom 4, bottom 5 for XG conceded, for shots conceded, big chances conceded. All of that isn't the referee's fault, in my opinion. But yeah, both things can be true. Referees have maybe been harsh with you in certain games, and you also don't defend well enough, and Ten Hag is the main responsible candidate for that. Wilson Højlund, as an FPL asset, I'm not a big fan of him, but apart from Watkins, Isak, and Haaland, he's probably the next best to buy at this stage. But yeah, as a striker in the Premier League, I think he's got potential, but he's very raw. I think his positioning could be better, but at the same time, he doesn't receive enough service. It kind of goes both ways there as well. Hello, Dylan. Should I still trust Newcastle defensively? Not really. That was the best chance for a clean sheet gone. I see one clean sheet to wrap up the season of the remaining 4 games they have. So, yeah, you kind of go for a Dan Burn, Fabian Schär if you have them, and that's it. I wouldn't double up. And to be fair, I wouldn't double up on United either, but that's kind of what I went for, just for the bench boost in 37. And let's see if the points have updated, although I haven't gotten any of them. No bonus points for me, because I didn't go for Gvardiol. Well done, Dylan. Well done. Another 50-50 call that went absolutely tits up. But yeah, no bonus points for me. Ten Hag being in 2 cup finals, winning Carabao, came third last season, 6th with an injury-ridden team on top of all the drama. What's the point in changing managers every 2 years? Yeah, it's true that you don't need to change managers every 2 years, but I personally just don't see him being a long-term success. You are right, you had a lot of injuries this season. You've reached 3 cup finals, winning one of them. But I don't know. I just personally don't see him as the man to take Man United forward. But I know a lot of people still support Ten Hag. I just don't see it that way. If I was a United fan, I think I'd want to change. Best Gameweek 36 captain, Foden, Haaland, Palmer. Foden was my original plan, so I'm going to stick with him right now. But it all depends on the future updates about his fitness. Salah to KDB and Foden to Eze. I wouldn't sell Foden. I know you want to get KDB in, but I'd keep Foden. I went Gavardio on wildcard last half hour and started him with a Gabriel, feeling pretty good. I would be too, that's for sure. Bench you between Pickford or Dubravka. That is a tough one, but I'm actually going to start Pickford there. I think both concede, but Everton's defence recently has been incredible. It really has. If Salah leaves, who would be Liverpool's penalty taker? McAllister. How much do you think Foden and Palmer cost next season? So I said Palmer 10 million, right? I'd say Foden at 10.5 to 11 million. To be honest, though, that's kind of what I think they should be priced. I think Palmer, I wouldn't be surprised if he was priced at 9 to 9.5, and that'd be pretty... It'd be too low. It'd be too low. Saka's 10 for sure. Bruno 9, Son 11, Watkins 9, Palmer 8.5, Gabriel 6, Trent 7.5, my predictions. Yeah, they're pretty solid. Maybe you're right. I said Saka at 10.5 to 11 million. Maybe I'm overplaying it a little bit. I think Bruno will be 9.5 though. I think he'll be a bit higher than that. Son 11, that's a great shout. I think that's kind of locked in. Watkins 9, I think that'd be too low though. I think he should be 10 million minimum. You might be right with your prediction, as in what FPL will do. That'd be too low. Burnley only lost once in 8 games. We've not dominated them in a decade, so don't see why suddenly this time it's on the manager again. I don't just look at the Burnley result though. That's just one game, and United probably should have won that match, to be honest. I'm looking at Sheffield United, conceding so many chances to them. The away record against the best teams in the country. At one point after a year of football, no wins against the top 10? You can't do that. I mean, we'll see how it all pans out, but I think personally City will win the FA Cup. If United were to win that would be a massive boost for Ten Hag, and I personally think he will stay, but I just don't think he's the right man. Region is heavily underrated. After what he did in Gameweek 29, fuck him. How much do you think Trent will be priced? I think Ruler 2 is right. I think 7.5 million. Anders Limpar, he is good. Thoughts on Morgan Rogers? He's been quite impressive in recent weeks, so that's a good shout. I wouldn't call him top 5 underrated yet, but in my opinion, Giroud, Ozil and Lallana, yeah, they're quite underrated, but I wouldn't put them in the top 3 underrated players of all time. Giroud, I've got PTSD from that guy. He's done very well in his career. He scored some big goals, some great goals as well, but he also misses so many chances. Ozil, he's a chance creation machine, and in his prime, he was unplayable. So much I want to change next year. Burn a transfer and wanted to make him captain. Nearly did, but I guess it was also the worry Wilson would play. This was my only reason. Yeah, sometimes we do overcomplicate things in FPL. I did it with Gavardio and going for Edison, but yeah, look, sometimes it just comes down to luck, and when it goes your way, be happy, and when it doesn't, just take on the chin and don't think too much about it. Hot take, I think Haaland would score even more goals than Liverpool. I don't see a better counter-attack. Salah, Haaland, Jota, Diaz. Yeah, Liverpool play more similar to Dortmund when Haaland was there, or even Red Bull Salzburg as well. The way City play is completely different, but then again, with City, he has so many chance creation machines like De Bruyne, even Phil Foden. Grealish has a great combination with Haaland as well. But yeah, you're right. In terms of style, Liverpool does suit him a lot, and he could still score 30-plus Premier League goals in a season with Liverpool. Oh, João Gomez. Right. I was going to say Joe Gomez. Yeah, Joe Gomez is a good shout as well. A lot of good points raised in the chat. Which one better for Gameweek 37, Walker or Gavardio? I think both of them get rested in one game from now until the end of the season. It's just about being lucky for Gameweek 37 specifically. I'm going to go for Gavardio right now, but honestly, it could go either way. On 60 points after a hit when Manice is on, I'm back to 25k. Great stuff to Stupaki. Still a good score, to be fair. When do you think? Who do you think will have the highest price rise and decrease next season? Oh, Palmer, easily the biggest rise. I think that's a no-brainer. Gordon would also have quite a significant one to 8 million or something, at least. But I think Palmer, easily. As for price decrease, now that's very tough to answer. I think, well, Rashford, nah, he already suffered that last season. So the season before. Wow. Price falls. I think I'm going to need help in the chat, actually. My mind's blanking there, but price increase, definitely Palmer. Shame I was terrible in the second half of the season, but your rank is still really good. Jacques is underrated. Yeah, even when he was, hated by Arsenal fans, I actually always thought, he was overhated and underrated. So that's a good shout, but take a shot, by the way, every time I said a good shout. I'll stop saying that now. But yeah, Granit Xhaka is underrated. Yeah, he did make some big mistakes for Arsenal. He was also played in the wrong position. As a lone DM, with his lack of pace, it was always the wrong call. Once he moved into the midfield as a left centre mid, kind of a box-to-box, that just unleashed the best out of him. I think he's always been a good player. I mean, we literally have to play Casemiro at centre-back because of injuries. Yes, a hill, but every team gets injuries. Liverpool had an injury crisis and still did quite well to go this far. Man City and Arsenal always get injuries, but look at Chelsea as well. We all banter them, and rightfully so, but they have got a lot of injuries as well. So, yeah, United have had a lot of injuries, very poor luck as well, but it also comes down to training methods potentially, or your medical staff aren't good enough. And I think your main doctor is actually taken from Arsenal. Yeah, what's his name? I think it was an O something, but yeah, I have to double check that. If Edison is injured, best replacement? Probably Onana, but yeah, in terms of Game Week 37 goalkeepers, I'm just not a big fan of most of them in terms of clean sheet chances. What do you think of Salah and Solanke to Gordon and Haaland? Yeah, I like it. I think Salah could do very well against Tottenham if he starts, but that's the big question mark. I don't like Gordon for this week, but for Game Week 37, he looks great. So overall, I'd say yes, but I'm still a bit fearful of Salah. Should I make a Gvardiol for double game week? I'm still worried about rotation as well. So for now, I'd hold off, roll the transfer if possible, and go into 37 with 2. And you've got a lot of flexibility to finalise your bench boost team, or if you're not using the bench boost, your Game Week 37 squad. Do you think next season people will go low on price defenders as clean sheets were rare this season? The thing is, though, with how Arsenal defended for the most part, I think 1 or 2 Arsenal defenders will be the template. So either Raya in goal, or you go for one of Gabriel, Saliba, Ben White. Apart from those players, I think people will go cheap. So you go for Branthwaite, potentially. We'll talk about this in the summer, of course, once I make content for next season. But yeah, that's a good question. How many points do you have on your FPL Challenge team? I honestly don't know. I think if I had to guess, it's over 60 because I captained Son there. Every player in a London derby scores double the number of points. Spurs are 2 London derbies. It just made sense. Burnley giving Coldbridge nightmares again. Rashford will be 6.5 million. I don't think so. If you're right, then fair play, but I personally think he'll still be 7.58 million. I think that's what they do. Fabregas, oh yeah, that's a great shout, Wei Seng. That's a fantastic one. Fabregas was one of my favourite players growing up. I was kind of shell-shocked when he went to Chelsea, but yeah, for me, his prime was at Arsenal, and he was unplayable. He was literally rivaling Lampard and Gerrard at the peak of their powers. Yeah, Fabregas for me is very underrated as well. He could easily be in that top 3. Oh man, I'm not looking forward to next season because of that crap UCL format. I'll give it a chance, but my kind of gut feeling is also the same. I just prefer the traditional format, but a lot of people wanted a kind of a mix-up, something different in the Champions League. Dylan, could Trent become a right midfielder with a new manager, becoming a nailed midfielder on set pieces, but a defender in FPL for 7.5? It's possible. It's more likely that he'll be, yeah, a right central midfielder. As for a winger or stuff like that, or playing as part of a midfield 4 on the right-hand side, probably not. But yeah, I think he could be out of position, play a bit more central, I think. So that's also a good pick there, good suggestion. Man City defender so annoying. Got Walker, he got injured before a double. Then got Ake, he got injured. Then got Akanji, which is good, but was going to go Gvardiol. Yeah, City defenders are a headache. They purely are. And that's why I went for Edison, and it just went absolutely tits up. My Saturday predictions were good, not today. Yeah, I think you put a Spurs win right. And what else did you put? Oh, yeah. I think in the end I went for 2-1 Bournemouth. The 3-0 surprised me. Since there'll be less double game weeks next season, FPL should just remove the bench boost chip. Yeah, I mean, we say it a lot of years and it never happens, but there should be a change. They really should in terms of the chips, just to keep things interesting, you know? Let's actually go for some different screens because we've been talking for the past hour and a bit, hour and 15 minutes. So be sure to smash the like button and subscribe for new. Let's get this video to over 100 likes. It'd be greatly appreciated. And let's now go to the fixture ticker. Only 3 game weeks left. Brighton are top of the FDR with City, Chelsea, Spurs and Newcastle in the top 5. Luton also quite high up. Hopefully they can survive miraculously, but it's not looking good. The bottom 5 have Wolves, Aston Villa, West Ham, Fulham and Bournemouth. And as you can see, Arsenal have kind of gone up a little bit in the FDR to around mid-table. Same with Liverpool. But yeah, last 3 game weeks, hopefully we have some twists and turns left. And we have a great end to the relegation battle and the title race. If we look at the predicted points for Game Week 36, Salah is top with 7.1. Will he start the game though? That's the big question mark. If he does, I think he could be the best captaincy option. Foden, Palmer, Haaland and De Bruyne complete the top 5. And we have Saka, Isak, Havertz, Jackson and Wissa. So yeah, getting rid of Arsenal players, especially Havertz and Saka, hasn't paid off. But the defenders obviously crumbled at the end. And yeah, Gavardio, let's not talk about him again. If we look at price changes, I have to say his name again. Isak, Gavardio, Pickford, White, Fernandes, De Bruyne, Palmer, Branthwaite, Havertz, Gordon, Thiago Silva, all could go up in price tonight. And if we look at price falls, Mikalenko, Eze, Osula, and Kivior. But yeah, I don't think all of them will happen at the same time. Just keep your eyes peeled though for these price changes. And if we look at Draft Town, this is their rankings for the best players in Game Week 36. Actually, in fact, it's for the last 3 game weeks of the season. So Haaland, Palmer, De Bruyne, Isak, Foden, Gordon, Fernandes, Gavardio, Son and Salah. They are in the top 10 for expected points there as well. If we look at the most captain player, it of course was Palmer, and he has blanked in the first game against Aston Villa. Let's see how he does in the London derby against Spurs. But Son captainers are winning at the moment. Same with those that went for Gavardio as one of your transfers or in the wild card. But yeah, it's been a trend all season, and I still go for the most captain player. I generally thought Palmer would be the best one. There's still a second game to go, of course. I'm backing Chelsea more than Tottenham there, but it's not looking good. It isn't looking good whatsoever. And finally, if we look at my provisional Game Week 36 team, which I'll talk about in future videos and podcasts, I've currently got Edison in the starting 11, but he is a major doubt for that game now. I don't want to start Petrovic at home to West Ham, but I might have to. Dan Burn, Gabriel, Maguire as the back 3, and that's where I probably just should have gone for Gavardio. I'm hoping he's benched very soon in Game Week 36 and one of the 37 games. That's kind of what I'm hoping for. But yeah, I could see myself easily in Game Week 37 if we lock things in potentially. So we could do something like this. Edison to Onana. Very simple stuff, isn't it? I'm kind of just chopping and changing things around. Then one of Maguire or Dallo make way for Gavardio. So yeah, that could be my bench boost team for Game Week 37. I could even take a -4 hit if I wanted to and get rid of Gabriel for a doubler. But then which doubler do I go to? Maybe I go to Romero there and bank on that clean sheet against Burnley, but that's not really absolutely necessary. And I would like Gabriel for the final game of the season against Everton at home. So yeah, I can still get Gavardio and build a good squad, but he's not getting 15 points again, even for the double game week, in my opinion. That's the way I see it. As for FPL Challenge, I'll probably show you in the next streams and videos. Probably not, but I'd say in the next few streams I'll show you my FPL Challenge scores. But I believe I have 65 so far. In terms of price falls, it has to be Tony. Yeah, that could be one. Someone else said Rashford. Ruler 2 as well says it's got to be Rashford. Can't see him more expensive than 7.5 million. Yeah, 1.5 million drop though. There could be someone with more. Yeah, that would be an interesting one. Yeah, Rashford and Tony definitely spring to mind. Would you play Walker and Gavardio both over Burn for Game Week 36? I'd play both of them. Injuries is never a good excuse, says Frankie. Yeah, I agree. Look, you can sympathise with a team that has so many injuries like Newcastle and Man United, but you can't use that as the, you know, the kind of get out of jail free card. I can't even speak English today. I do think Ten Hag does make a lot of excuses, and ultimately, even when everyone's fit, you just don't see a clear style of play or consistent results. I mean, the goal difference last season wasn't great. The goal difference now is just a shambles. It's +1, and we're in April. It's not good enough, in my opinion. Since Jan, Brighton, 3 wins, 5 draws, 8 losses, 14 goals, 24 conceded. That's 1.5 per game. It's an awful record, but you have played Liverpool away, Arsenal and Man City at home. You've had some very tough games, but losing 3-0 to Bournemouth, drawing to Burnley, and relying on a own goal by Muric, that's really where you should be disappointed. Now, Salah isn't worth as a bench player for his price. Yeah, look, I'm just saying if he starts, I think he'll do very well. The way Tottenham play does suit him. Your top 3 players next season in your FPL team, regardless of their price. Oof, I'd say Saka, Palmer, and it's between Haaland and Foden. Yeah, I'm going to stick with probably Haaland for now. I do think Foden will drop off a little bit, but of course, he's got so much potential. He could build upon his incredible season this year, but I think in terms of FPL points, he'll drop off a little bit. That's my current prediction. I'll probably look like a fool in 1 year's time anyway. I can't be the only one that used to call Lallana Lama. I've heard that before, I think. You think that Trent is overrated and is just Zinchenko level? No. And first off, Zinchenko is a good player. He just has brain farts, and he's always had it at City. He's poor defensively. Trent, yeah, he might be overrated, but he's not. You know, I think it's disrespectful to Trent and Zinchenko to say that. Yeah, Trent has never been a good defender, but he's a quality player. His ball striking, the crossing, the passing is incredible. But yeah, defensively, I just don't see him ever becoming that top defender. But who knows? Haaland, KDB and Foden expected price next season. Haaland, I think, will drop a little bit. I think to 13.5, 13. This season is quite underwhelming compared to the last. I think Foden is 10.5 to 11 million. Yes, I think, you know what? I'm going to go for KDB and Foden to be priced at 10.5 million and Haaland at 13.5. How do you see Chelsea next season with Osimhen and Palmer? Well, there's no guarantee that Osimhen will go to Chelsea. And looking at how Chelsea strikers have done, you know, in the last few decades, with the exception of Drogba, Diego Costa for a year or so, it's not looking great. So I don't think Osimhen will be a guaranteed success if he were to go there. What's Palmer's price going to be next season? I'm saying 10. I think he should be 10 million at least. He can't be, you know, he certainly can't be less than 9. That'd be criminally underpriced. Remember to smash the like and, of course, subscribe. Thank you, Andrew Ashford. Just messing, yeah, of course, we're singing Tis the Parky. It's a good banter. Your face when you see Gvardiol. Man, I'm honestly sick to death of that guy, man. I mean, it's not a big deal, but if I really come down and think about it, it's like a 13-point swing. Best captain for Gameweek 36. I'm saying Foden or De Bruyne right now. I think City will score 2 or 3 against Wolves, and I think those 2 are the key. I'm staying clear of Brighton players despite them being top of the FDR. Same here. Gross was the only one I was considering, maybe Joao Pedro, but yeah, I think right now I'm quite happy to go about. I got 54 points after a -12 hit, and I'm still in the top 200 in the world. Yeah, a lot of people took massive hits to keep up with wildcarders, and so far it's looking great. I think Gameweek 37 is kind of the decider, but yeah, ultimately, 3 at 34. Obviously, that really worked out well for most people. And wildcard 35 has been kind of meh so far, unless you went for all the top picks. I'm just happy that I went for some good ones like Gordon and Isak. I've brought them back in. Fernandez, you know, still got bonus points despite blanking. But yeah, it's been a bit underwhelming so far. So let's see where we're at right now. Yeah, let's be sure to get this stream to over 100 likes. It'd be massively appreciated. I'll go through the last set of questions and comments. Yeah, we've done quite well to catch up. Before AFCON, top captains worked. Since it hasn't, and we have lost ground. It's always since AFCON, isn't it? Like Salah last season. Don't tempt fate on Gvardiol, says Twisted Parky. I just hope he's benched. I really do. Just so I don't go for him and I can just forget about him. Next season template, 4.5 million goalkeeper. Gabriel, Trent, 4.5 million defender. Saka, Palmer, and Mbumo, 6 million mid. Haaland, Watkins, 5.5 million attacker. Yes, but prices will be crucial, of course. If Watkins is really expensive, you could see people going elsewhere. But yeah, I think Haaland Watkins will be the template. You're right about that. The midfield as well. I could see Foden being part of that template though. As for goalkeepers, Pickford could be it. I think it'll be 5 million next season. But yeah, people tend to go for the cheaper goalkeepers, and it rarely works out in the last few seasons. I don't think Trent will be template. That would be my prediction right now, but let's see how it pans out. If he were to go down to 6.5 million, then he could become a template pick. Who to play, Petrovic or Pickford, Gameweek 36? I'd play Pickford. And which one to bench out of these? Haaland, Son, Watkins, Isak, Palmer, Foden, if fit, Bruno and Gordon. I'd bench Gordon just for the away record. I've got his spot on most times. It seems quite simple with Gordon. He's kind of like the ideal fifth midfielder. You start him at home and you bench him away. Will Alvarez be a striker or midfielder next season? Striker. Lost also 3-0 to Fulham and 4-0 to Luton. Yeah, just unacceptable results. If Watkins is on pens, I'd pay 11 million for him. If KDB was starting on pens, I would easily pay 13 million. You're right about both, but Watkins is a poor penalty taker. I remember the season before, well, last season actually, he actually missed a few. Not sure in exactly which games, but there's a reason why Douglas always takes them. So, yeah, maybe it saved us some pain. As for KDB, he's just not able to play every 3-4 days, but they've saved him for a run-in. He's delivering right now. I hope he stops. What's the age we stop using potential on a player? It's a good question. I mean, there are cases of players, you know, that are 26 and above. They might even be, you know, close to 30, who are really underperforming. But in terms of what you're saying, potential, I'd probably say 24, 25. The only change I want FPL to make is to increase the max player limit per team from 3 to 4. Yeah, I wouldn't really be against that. I really wouldn't, but don't expect anything there. I think they'll keep that for sure. Joao Pedro on the wing is just crap. Yeah, for FPL. I mean, I don't know why he had a good start to the season. I don't know why the Zerbi changes things so much. I think it's kind of overcomplicating things. Mohammed says keep Salah or buy Foden or De Bruyne. I'd buy Foden or De Bruyne. My preference still lies with Phil Foden. I can't see Palmer being more than 9 million. 10 million plus players will be Saka, Son, KDB, Salah, Haaland, and maybe Foden. Maybe you're right. It's just Palmer outscored pretty much all of them. And he will end up outscoring all of them. But realizing Palmer's going high price next season, yeah, who knows? Maybe he's a one-season wonder. Yeah, it's definitely not happening. Your favourite double Gameweek 37 defenders? I'm thinking of selling Van Dijk for Walker. Gavardio, reluctantly, but if not, Walker's fine. I'd also say Pedro Porro or Romero to cover Spurs, especially Porro for me. I'd still pick him over Romero. Apart from that, I'd be looking at one of Dalot or Maguire. Not great, but it is what it is. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Those are the main ones I'd target. 51 seems okay, but Cher and Edison injury and Foden out, not the best scenario after a wild card. Exactly that. Identical points to you. I've got the Edison injury as well. Some people had Cher too. It's just not been a great week so far. I know, but pens on fantasy are so handy, says Ruler 2. Watkins has only scored 4 out of 9. Yeah, so it would have led to some minus points there. The Zerbi a fraud. I wouldn't call him a fraud, but I said last season, for me, he's overrated, a bit overhyped by the media. I think tactically, you know, he can cause the best teams problems. He did it to Arsenal last season. He's done it to many teams, even Liverpool. But yeah, I think personally, Graham Potter was a bit disrespected because he built the foundations that the Zerbi then built upon. I feel like Foden will go down on form next season, and someone like Nunez, Tony, or maybe even Jackson, Jack Zill. Yeah, I think Foden will drop a little bit in terms of goal output. He might play very well and be a contender for player of the season again, but I don't see him getting as many goals or assists. But look, I'm sure Foden will have a better season than this one eventually. You know, he's so young, the sky's the limit for him. But yeah, that's also my prediction right now. Hopefully we're right and we don't look like fools. That would be insane from 5 to 10. Yeah, you're probably right. You're probably right. 9 million. We'll concede on 9 million. He can't be less than that for me because he scored over 200 points. He's averaging 7+ points per game. Amazing underlying numbers. Penalty taker. He can't be 8 million. That's as simple as that. He can't be 8 million or below. Not quite, but he needs to adapt. Yeah, adaptability is a big trait, you know, and, you know, Guardiola has it. He can be stubborn at times, of course, but the best managers are the ones who can adapt. Predict FPL prices of these 3-4s next season. A lot of price prediction questions. So Watkins, as I mentioned earlier, probably 10.5. Isak, I'm going to go for 8.5 to 9 million. Solanke as well, actually. Solanke, I'm going to go for 8.5. Isak, I'm going to go for 8.5 as well, actually. And Watkins, 10.5. We didn't get to witness Messi in FPL, would probably be in every team. Maybe it's a good thing, because he would have been like 90% ownership. He would have broken the Haaland record for sure. Anthony template pick next season. I'm not going to say anything. He's obviously scored recently, but yeah, no, not for me. Company is underrated. I hope he manages a bigger club. Yeah, and this once again comes down to the adaptability factor. You know, sometimes you kind of look at Company and think maybe you should shore things up a little bit with Burnley. You know, you're in the Premier League and you're playing against teams better than you, but you could also admire what he's doing. And yeah, hopefully, you know, he can stay at Burnley and do a good job there, bring them back up in the Premier League if they are relegated. But yeah, I think he will eventually go on to bigger and better things, so to speak. Dawson Wilson Isak combo alongside Haaland Dylan. I mean, with Wilson, a lot of times you're getting goals off the bench. Goals are goals, of course, but I still prefer players who start. So I'd actually go for Jackson over Wilson, dare I say. Rasmus Højlund, Ollie Watkins. Yeah, I think that's kind of where I'd go. But I don't mind that double up. It's just Isak and Gordon for me are by far the best Newcastle options. Brian, easy to play against. Sit deep. Brian have no answers. Attack at the right time. Push up on their back. Then force mistakes. Plus Highline does my head in. Yeah, look, in terms of playing out from the back, I think Brian are one of the best teams in the world at that. But you have to have more to your game, and you're right. You know, if teams keep doing the same thing against you, getting results, eventually you have to change things up a little bit, especially based on the opponent. If they mess up the price next season, it may be the most template boring season ever. I have to say the last few seasons have been a bit boring. Maybe this one's been better than the last one, although I'm not doing as well. But yeah, I want something a bit different, you know, with fewer double game weeks. Yeah, change the chips, make the prices higher. I think that could be a good thing as well. F1 Fantasy actually did something very similar. They made the prices very high this season, and it kind of comes down to budget options and, you know, these kind of players you never, or drivers you never pick and teams you never pick, and that's where things spice up a little bit. Will Martinelli drop price? Yeah, I think he will. Not by much, but he has had a poor season. If you can make a team with Saka, Palmer, Foden, Watkins and Haaland, it's wraps. Yeah, the problem is if everyone else does the same thing, it then comes down to the players, the differentials you have to make up the ground. If teams attack Brighton at the right time, quids in. If they open up too much, that plays to Brighton's strength. Yeah, obviously he had a great start to the season, right? And then we're kind of thinking, wow, Brighton could finish top 6, maybe even top 5. But yeah, it's a shame that it kind of dropped off. Will Matoma leave? I'm unsure. I mean, he's been injured for most of the season, which is a shame. I think he'll stay at Brighton. You would go Jackson, Dylan. Repent. Well, I'm saying Jackson over Wilson, who just came back from an injury, who's injury prone anyway, and who mainly comes off the bench. But yeah, I think with strikers, it's Haaland, Isak, and probably Rasmus Højlund. I don't mind that though. It's something different, and you know, I think it's a good shout. It's just with Newcastle offensively, I think Gordon and Isak is enough. Where do you think the top 3 clubs in Prem this season need to improve the most? With Liverpool, they concede far too many chances. I think they need another midfielder still. I mean, look, they've scored a lot of goals this season, created a lot, played some great football, but yeah, I mean, if we're kind of nitpicking, I think they need another centre-back. Kanate is too injury-prone. He's been awful recently. I also look at their fullbacks. I'd personally buy a right-back and move Trent into the midfield. That's just my opinion. I'm not an expert, nothing like that. It's just what I do. I'd buy another midfielder, especially a DM. Endo's done a good job for most of the season, but it's quite clear they need a reliable DM, with Endo being the backup. For example, if you put Rice in this Liverpool team, I think they're still competing for the title. That's the way I see it. And I still think they need probably 1 or 2 attackers, actually. So at least 1 winger, maybe even 2. And if Salah stays, you maybe play him up front. And Darwin would be someone I'd have on the bench. Same with Gakpo. They're good squad players, but I don't think they're good enough to lead Liverpool to a title. Not going to lie, this season was pricey. Yeah, compared to the last one, but it wasn't that pricey, so to speak. Watkins under Emery is a different animal. One thing I always give Emery credit for is he gets the best out of strikers, and I've always said this. I take issue with some things about his teams. They can see too many chances and all that, but yeah, he always gets the best out of their strikers. You see the format changing next season as FPL Challenge having new points getting method? It's possible. You know, this FPL Challenge thing could be trialing things out, but I don't think that much will change. Could be famous last words, but that's the way I feel right now. I would like to see 1 or 2 more premium assets like Mbappe or Kane. Yeah, with Mbappe though, he's going Madrid. Harry Kane, of course, is in Bayern Munich. He'll win stuff next season. Yeah, trying to think what kind of big star could come to the Premier League. Maybe Osimhen. He's not the same level of player or star, but maybe he could be a 10 million plus asset who comes in, does a great job. Having 3 Chelsea players is torture. Yeah, it's just the doubles, you know. If it wasn't for that double in 37, I probably would have just stuck with 1 or maybe 2 max. When will FPL next season start? In July or August? It will start in August. In terms of FPL itself, it will be released in early July. Yeah, I'd say early July, first few days. But yeah, the Premier League obviously would start in August, and we'll keep an eye out for that. I think on the 15th of June, we'll get confirmation of the fixtures. Also, do you think the game would be more challenging if Saka was like 12 million? Basically, you can have like 2-3 world-class players, not 7 in attack. Yeah, it would be more challenging. For example, though, I think 12 million for Saka might be a bit too much, but maybe that could actually be a better solution to what we have right now. Caicedo played like Kante whenever Enzo's not on the pitch. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Caicedo was brilliant for Brighton, but he's been awful for Chelsea, in my opinion, for the most part. Do you think Bellingham could have improved the Liverpool attack if he went? Definitely. I don't think he would have done what he did for Real Madrid in the first half of the season, and this might be a unpopular take. People might, you know, disagree, pitchforks, all that. You know, Bellingham currently is leading the Ballon d'Or race. I think that's far too much. He's a good player. I liked him a lot at Dortmund, but I think it's come to a stage where he's a bit overhyped. That's the way I see it, but certainly would have improved the Liverpool team. No doubt about it. Sorry, my keyboard. No worries. I think we'll stay to different games if they change the way to get points for every week. I will not play the game. Linus says, thoughts on using the bench boost in Game Week 1? Well, some people did it this season and they regretted it. I think the 37 bench boost looks great. I'm not regretting it, even if it goes wrong. But maybe ask me in 1 or 2 weeks' time and see how the bench boost goes. But I'd say no, not for me. Now, you would make a good point at the end about the lack of double game weeks. True, but I think I'd still wait a little bit because when the season starts, at least in my case, I tend to kind of, you know, I tend to do really well in Game Week 1. Game Week 2 as well, maybe. Then I kind of falter a little bit. And then once I identify the trends of the best teams and best players, that's when I have a good understanding. I make the most of my chips. But yeah, my gut feeling will be to save the chips until later in the season. Players receive 2 points per shot next game week. Yeah, that's the challenge and stipulation. I mean, that's something similar to Sky. You have like shot tiers, passing tiers. I like that sort of stuff from Sky Fantasy Football. And in UCL Fantasy, of course, the ball recoveries. What do you mean 2 Chelsea players max? Palmer FC. Yeah, well, Gusto, if he was fit, I would have been happy to have him as a 5th defender. In Cuckoo next season, if he's fit, that's a big if though. Will he be fit? I think at Leipzig as well, he got a few injury problems. So maybe, but I'll be honest, I think next season from Chelsea, it's Palmer or nothing. Mara says the only improvement I'd like to see in the rules is the possibility to make substitutions after all the games in the day ends. That would mean bench needs to be strong. Less template teams, I'd assume. I have to say that's 100% spot on. Not everyone will agree. They might not like the micromanagement aspect of it. You have to be very engaged, but I think it rewards managers who put more time in FPL, who make more research, or who go for differential picks. So that's what I like about UCL Fantasy. I personally think it's a better game than FPL, and I tend to do better in it, so maybe you'll say that's the reason why, but I think that could really help. I really do. People always forget just how Enzo pocketed Bellingham just in 1 year. Well, that's why sometimes a decision like, you know, which club you go to is massive, and I said it last January, Enzo should never go to Chelsea, not in their current state. He would have been better off at Benfica, and then in the summer he could have gone to Madrid, Man City, any club really, in my opinion. Yeah, thanks for pointing out Bellingham is overrated, W. Dillon. Look, he's a quality player, don't get me wrong. I think he should be up there in the rankings for Ballon d'Or. But first, you know, I personally think he had a great first half of the season. He got a few injury problems. He tailed off since he returned. Against Man City, for example, I think he played quite poorly in both games, but he's been hyped a lot. Look, quality player, I do rate him, but I think he is overrated by some people. Your thoughts on Arne Slot? I was asked this earlier, and the simple answer is I've only watched Feyenoord once or twice under Arne Slot, and I don't know enough to really comment on that. So I'll reserve judgment. My prediction is that Liverpool will finish 3rd or 4th next season at the moment. We'll see how you do in the summer window. And there might be a bit of pain in the short term, but I think Liverpool will get back to challenging in a few years' time, and it will end up being a good appointment. But that's a gut feeling. I don't know much about him, so that's kind of the bottom line of it. I would like a Joker chip. 1 game a season, you can bring in the top scorer for that game week, even if you did not have them. I mean, it's an interesting idea. There's a lot of things they could do. The all-out attack chip was very good. And in fact, I think I didn't even play FPL when it was out, when that was a thing. I like that sort of chip, for example. The Limitless from UCL Fantasy and Euro Fantasy Football, another one that's really good. On my days, I would love Bellingham in fantasy. If you watched him in Madrid, he is by far the luckiest player in front of goal that I have seen. Plus, he can score bangers and assists. I mean, look, Real Madrid are that sort of club, though, like Man United were, under their, during their peak with Ferguson. I think it's also the Madrid factor, the luck they sometimes get, and they persevere until the very end, score late winners, find a way to just get all the titles, really. But yeah, I don't think Bellingham would have scored anywhere near as many goals or assists for Liverpool or in the Premier League, but he would have done very well. Thank you, Ahmed, for the super chat. Hey mate, just joined in. Just saying hi. I'm wondering who's essential in the attacking line for Gameweek 37. Many options with the Salah money now. Thank you very much. I think one of Foden or De Bruyne is a must-have, maybe even both. Bruno Fernandes still looks really good. Another 9 chances created, I think it was, against Burnley. In terms of single game week options, Saka and Havertz still look great. They definitely do. But I would say KDB, Foden, Son, Bruno Fernandes, and Palmer. Gordon also looks good, but I'd probably rank those 5 above Anthony Gordon right now. As for forwards, I'd stick with Isak, Haaland, and probably Rasmus Højlund. 2 points every shot, which means Haaland, Liverpool forwards are must-have. Yeah, so Darwin, miss all the chances you want, but try to have 8 shots if you can. Is Edison out? Missed the game? What happened? He was subbed off after the first half due to an injury. It could be a bad problem. I think Pep Guardiola said that in his press conference. Someone mentioned it in the live chat. I'll check that, verify it myself, and keep you updated in the future videos and podcasts. Do you still rate Musiala higher than Bellingham? I still do, but Bellingham is definitely better in terms of goals and assists. Musiala is quite underwhelming from that perspective, and that's why he doesn't get much hype. In UCL Fantasy, I don't think Musiala scored since matchday 2, actually. No goals or assists as well since matchday 3 at the very least, so it's not looking great there. But one of the best dribblers in the world, and yeah, the way he controls the ball is much better than Bellingham, for example. Defoe underrated. Yeah, he's underrated. I wouldn't put him in my top 3, top 5 most underrated players in the Premier League era, but he is underrated. I think he's good. Very good finisher. Thank you, Ruler 2. Thank you for all the answers, Dylan. Love the work. I appreciate that, and it's been great talking to you. Some great contributions to the chat. Best Leicester City assets for next season. Oh dear. I mean, I'll definitely be doing some videos, that'll be the aim anyway, during the summer, to talk about the best options from Leicester and all the newly promoted clubs. Yeah, with Leicester, honestly, I'm unsure. I think some of you watching will have a better idea than myself, but if I had to kind of give 3 now, and trust me, this is not locked in, I might even go for 1 Leicester asset, let alone 3. I think I would go for... I think Ricardo Pereira, Dewsbury Hall, and Vardy would spring to mind. But with Vardy, with his age as well, I don't see him starting every single game, so that could be a bit of a sticky one. Vestergaard, obviously he was at Southampton before. He could be decent. We'll see how the goalkeeper's priced, but yeah, I'm probably sticking with Pereira, Dewsbury Hall, and Vardy, but I don't really see any of them being great FPL options next season. I'm happy to be proven wrong, though. Very happy to do that. Let me quickly shout out all the channel members and patrons, if I can do that. Oh, that's not great. All right, so I'll try to get the patron list up now and see if I can get this up. So yeah, now we've been streaming for a couple of hours. Time flies when you're having fun. So thank you to those that have tuned in today. It's been a pleasure talking to all of you. Yeah, for some reason I can't log into Patreon, so I'll try to sort that out. I think I got logged out today, actually. If I can get the list up here, I think So just give me a second. Yeah, any day now would be nice, but I'm not sure why they've done this. I literally got logged out and I'm not sure why. That's very odd. Okay, I'll try to see if I can log in later, but very, very strange. I'm going to try to do this very quickly. But yeah, before I do that anyway, I'm going to go for the other questions as well. What position is Havertz playing now? Well, up front, he's actually got a great record there. In the Premier League for Arsenal, he's got 7 goals, 5 assists in 9 games. He's averaging a goal or assist every 55 minutes. Yeah, Tim Cahill underrated. I have to say a lot of good names and good suggestions in the live chat today. You see Watkins leaving anytime soon and which club would suit him? I think he'll stay at Villa, especially if they secure Champions League football, which they almost certainly will. I also think they win the Europa Conference League, so I think Watkins stays. If he were to leave, he would suit a Liverpool, I think, really well. Maybe even a Tottenham or Arsenal as well. But I think Liverpool or Spurs, he'd really suit. I only see Liverpool as an upgrade, though. I don't think Tottenham is an upgrade on Villa right now. Do you think Wirtz will join a Premier League team in the future? And if so, which team suits him? Arsenal, Man City would definitely suit him, but I think City would be more likely to buy him, actually. Other than Mbappe or Kane, I don't see a player outside the Premier League being more than 12 million. Man, maybe Vinicius or Lewandowski at 12. Yeah, or Messi, but that's not going to happen, is it? You're right. I think Vinicius, Lewandowski. To be honest, Lewandowski nowadays, he had a great run recently, but I have to say in the last year or so, he's been quite underwhelming as, overall. So, yeah, I don't think Lewandowski will be priced at 12. I think he'd be 11 million or perhaps less, 10.5. Jimmy Floyd, Hasselbank, James Betty, Barry, Viduka, Tony Yeboah, underrated. Yeah, some great names there. Viduka, he's a name that haunts me as well. I was only a baby back then, but yeah, Arsenal did F up that title. Yeah, Mishu's season was great, but it was only one season. That is the definition of a one-season wonder. So you're right, he's kind of underrated because he's forgotten about, but because it was only one season, I can't really class him as underrated overall. One of my childhood favourites, yeah. I remember he scored against Arsenal at the Emirates after a Jenkinson mistake, and he did that stupid celebration. But to be fair, it was a good celebration. You gotta give him that. I'm gonna try to see if I can actually log in to this bloody page, but for some reason I can't. I don't know what. It's like they deleted my account or something. It doesn't exist. Yeah, I'm not sure what they've done here. Yeah, I'm gonna see why exactly this is happening. But yes, kind of annoying. Not gonna lie. But at least I'm gonna shout out the channel members. So a big shout out to Chenny, who joined just the other day, becoming a differential. Also to Beercan, Kenny Silvera, Olsen, Larkin, Twisted Parkio 6, Gary, Zenzone, Callum Jr., Matt's Collectibles, Sefer, Goldhead, Tommy Raw, Weiseng, Ventislav, Nathama, Exotic Log, Daniel, Rishi, Gabriel R, Unruly DMV, Mauro Rodriguez, Aman, Jazabi, Farhad, Pablo Cordero, Lavanier, Jacques Cabral, Simon Spears, Ulises, Kat, Bestie, That Air, George Popescu, Alex Leadham, Gabriel Fernandez, and John Granquist. A massive shout out to all the chat members. I'm going to try get the patrons up as well, but like I said, I don't know why that's the case. You know what? I'm going to shout it out now. I think I can get this list up on a separate browser, but be sure to smash the like button and subscribe for new. Let's try to get this video to over 100 likes. It'd be massively appreciated. Also, thank you to those watching after the stream is done. And be sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM. Patreon as well is the exact same. There's also the channel memberships. If you click the join button, join the FPL League, FPL Challenge, the Discord server, which is a great place to be in. And also check out Spotify and Amazon Music. Leave a 5-star review on my podcast. And also anything else I forgot to mention, I think that's pretty much all covered. And I also showed you some different screens heading into Double Gameweek 35. Let's see if I can finally log into Patreon. I think I can on another browser. Not sure exactly why, but I want to shout out the following members as well once it loads. So just giving it a second here. All right, so also shout out to Nikhil Patil, to Alex Orlov, to Nikola Ilev, to Sajid Kasim, Andres Suarez, Joao Olival, Sneak J, Luis Alexander Perella, Ben Lockett, Drogba, and Derek Swainson. A massive shout out to all of you as well. Yeah, your support goes a long way to helping the channel grow and keeping things going. Rodrigo Urias, Lovro Zuvic, Federico Caliso as well. I can't forget to mention them too. So thank you very much. And it's been a pleasure talking to you for the past few hours. Now, with FPL content, I will probably save that for a bit later in the week from Tuesday onwards, because the full focus will be on UCL Fantasy. Now, as I was saying in Spanish earlier, the problem is with the Limitless, and I'll go back to my team for now in FPL. Wrong page. Yeah, one of the problems with UCL Fantasy is a lot of the big teams and players have been eliminated, so the Limitless is actually useless right now. I might do a separate video for Limitless and Wildcard. So with the Limitless, you focus more on this match day only. You maybe go for more Dortmund players or whichever team you back. But I have to say, the Limitless isn't really worth much at this point. It really isn't. You're going to have 3-4 million left in the bank, even if you go for the more expensive players. I'll cover all the latest injury updates and all that as well. But yeah, it's a bit of a shame, really, in UCL Fantasy. The wildcard video will definitely be out, though. Same with the team selection as well. Would Mbappe be 14 or 15? Imagine having 30 million Mbappe, Haaland up front. I think he'd be 14 million. Between 13 and 14, yeah, I think 14 million for Mbappe. I captained Foden and my vice was Son, so I'm happy with that. Fair play. A lot of people with Foden recently have been lucky with, the other week it was Palmer as the vice, Foden captain, and Palmer got 26 points. I mean, that was even worse, but fair play. Yeah, Luis Saha, so underrated. Firmino, yep. Very, very good names there. Les Ferdinand, Dennis Irwin. Dennis Irwin's a fantastic shout. He was before my time, but, you know, you look at Roy Keane, who's very hard to please. He says he's one of the best fullbacks in Premier League history, both-footed, took free kicks and penalties. I beg your pardon, what did you say about Mishu? Look, I like him, don't get me wrong, but he was a one-season wonder. I'm just being, just being honest about it. That's how underrated Firmino is. Yeah, he helped Liverpool tick. He would have some very low goal scoring seasons. He'd be frustrating at times in front of goal, but the assists, the flair, the trickery, yeah, he was kind of the underrated cog of that Liverpool attack, that's for sure. Even Sadio Mane as well did a great job for them, but yeah, there are so many underrated players in Premier League history. Sol Campbell, Pires, Fabregas, as you said, Weiseng. There are too many that we won't have enough time to discuss all of them. Even Bergkamp, for me, is to a certain extent underrated because people say, oh, he only scored 87 goals. That guy's not that good. But Bergkamp is much more than goals. He had like 90 assists. Yeah, he was incredible in his prime. I loved Irwin bloody brilliant. You almost swayed me to go Cucurella in the end. Thankfully, I didn't opt for Pedro instead. For Petrovic. Oh, right. I see what you're saying. Yeah, no, fair enough. That's good that you didn't go in that direction. It's very unlucky for those that went for Cucurella, to be quite honest with you. For the own goal, same for those that went for Cher, for Edison. It just comes down to fine margins. Unlucky that Disasi didn't get that goal. Yep. And also, Cucurella would have got an assist there. Nigel Winterburn, Steve Bold underrated. Yeah, definitely. Even nowadays, because it was so long ago, Tony Adams is quite underrated. Ricardo Carvalho for Chelsea, very underrated. There's so many names. Makaleli, we could be here all day. We really could. Hjumberg for me is underrated, but yeah, a lot of times it's like the fans of that club really, back the player, they rate him, but fans from other clubs don't really appreciate how good the players are. But thank you very much for everyone. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to everyone for watching this. It's been a pleasure talking for the past 2 hours, and we actually have hit the 2-hour mark. There will be a deadline stream next week, of course, and I'll try to do a best wildcard team selection, transfer tips for FPL. But first off, UCL Fantasy Match Day 11 for the semi-finals, the first leg. We've got a massive game between Real Madrid and Bayern Munich. Unfortunately, Bayern Munich have a lot of injury problems, as I'll talk about in my upcoming videos and podcasts. Take care, enjoy the football. I wish you all the best of luck for Gameweek 35, 36, and the rest of the season. And I'll see you next time.